Okay. So, I think we're live. There's always a little bit of a weird delay that doesn't feel consistent.
Delay.
Just a smidge. But, welcome everyone.
Yeah, there we are.
This is On Just Restart. I'm joined by my friends Nate from Nintendo Prime and Brandon. How you guys doing?
Fine.
Oh, survived Christmas, so I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
Survive Christmas. There you go.
Holidays are stressful.
Yeah.
But we made it through.
Yeah. The holidays are stressful. For a lot of people, I imagine. Sometimes they're fun. I mean, I would hope that it's been fun for everyone. It's been a good time, but also there are a variety of challenges that arise when Christmas comes around. There's the weather, which this year is a lot colder than usual. I'm in Florida and I think it's cold. I'm wearing a sweater, and not just because I think it looks cool. So, yeah, there's that.
I'm in Texas and it's freezing.
Yeah.
Literally. It's not usually literally freezing.
Hey, at least you don't live in Buffalo, New York. Like 49 inches of snow or something like that.
Oh, yeah. We didn't get any snow.
How have you dealt with the cold, Nate?
It's whatever. It's just winter.
Just
Doesn't
winter?
bad.
Just
I mean,
winter,
we
you
had
can
like
handle it?
negative 30 one day. It's whatever. We've been way colder than that before, so.
Okay.
Doesn't bother me. It might have bothered the Miami Dolphins. I don't know. Apparently, because it was so cold down there.
I don't care. I'm not a Dolphins fan.
I know you're a Heat guy.
Just
Unfortunately, they play indoors, so it doesn't really matter.
yeah, basketball doesn't matter too much unless there's an ice accident, which God forbid it never happens. But yeah, guys, welcome to the show. Hopefully everything looks and sounds okay. In the chat, let me know if there are any weird audio or video issues so I can get it fixed now. But the basic plan for tonight, as the title suggests, is to go over our final predictions for Nintendo in 2023. I put out my own video on Saturday, even though I had a number of issues getting it out. My internet started to run at 7% capacity, so I had a 36-minute video to upload, and it took, rather than, 10 to 15 minutes as it usually does, it took like 2 hours. And my computer also became unresponsive because while I was trying to do write out the description and create the thumbnail, sometimes I spend a few hours on the thumbnail. And because of this weird issue, I had to press Control-Alt-Delete on my computer every 2 minutes. I wouldn't be able to press any buttons or minimize or exit or change a tool in Photoshop or what have you at all. And I would Control-Delete, and it would take a moment, pull up the task manager, and it would let me start doing things again. But then I would have to continually do that every 2 minutes. It was crazy. And I was just never sure if I just failed to click something or it was unresponsive. It was a mess.
Maybe we were talking about saving and then rebooting the computer.
Oh, trust me. I did the works. Okay.
I'm just saying, if you didn't at least do that, then
I did the basic stuff. I cleared everything out. I did a restart. That did not help. Yep. I followed the namesake of the channel. It still did not help. Yeah, I did some tinkerings today. Everything seems to be fine for now, but I think my computer's in need of some maintenance. But we'll worry about that in the future. Anyways, yeah. So I put out my predictions on Saturday. So my own predictions are already out there. I will bring them back up throughout the discussion here, but we are going to focus a little bit more on Nate's predictions and Brandon's predictions. I do talk a lot, so I'll probably end up just shoving in my predictions again anyway. Or maybe I'll change my mind, because that happens too. And we'll still check back into the chat here and there. By the way, shout outs to Mike Odyssey. I heard you're sick, buddy. Please feel better. Guys, send him good wishes so he can feel better. He's a little sick and under the weather. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about Nintendo, and then at 10:30 Eastern time, so in about 55-ish minutes, we're gonna we're still gonna talk about Nintendo, but we're gonna do a bit of a call-in, right? So if you are a YouTube member, right, or if you're a Patreon member, either or, if you reach out to me ahead of time and I'm not distracted, I will pencil you in for a call-in segment where we go 15 to 20-ish minutes or so talking about whatever topic you want to bring up. Niche Quick Pops is going to be on tonight, so we're going to bring him onto the Discord call in a little bit under an hour. We'll talk about some stuff. It's still going to be about Nintendo. It's actually going to be about Xenoblade and Metroid, so it's going to be some good stuff. I mean, Metroid's definitely going to be relevant next year, at least I think. Hint, hint. But, yeah, so we got a lot to dissect tonight. It's going to be a good time. But, you know, any opening thoughts? You know, nothing specific yet, because I just want to get some opening thoughts here. I'll check in with the chat, and they'll start diving into things. But is there anything on the surface of your heads you want to kind of put out there now before we really get things going?
2023 will be the greatest year for Switch yet.
I feel like we've been chasing that greatest year for a couple of years, but that's
I think it's already set up.
yeah.
I won't get there yet though. It's not, no, I'll just leave it at that. That's all I got to say.
It's funny because I was gonna say a similar thing because we've been saying for the past couple of years like, oh, the next year is gonna be like 2017 Part 2, and it's gonna be like the next best year for the Switch. I think eventually we will have to hit that, and I think with, you know, Zelda finally getting release date, maybe this will be the year.
Okay. I am picking that up. Shout outs to Mike Odyssey for joining as a member. Thanks for joining, buddy. Really appreciate it. But you know, I'm gonna make this a video. Writing this down. 2023.
I always have my notepad ready.
Yeah. I started that habit now. Yeah. Because ideas come up.
This phone, I'm just like, okay, I better get my S Pen out and ready to go.
That's an idea for later. Man, so I think that people, I know you guys have talked about it before. I've talked every year. It's a topic of conversation. Will this be the year that it is the best year for Switch yet? And I mentioned this actually in my predictions video. And I know some people didn't like that I brought it up because it is something that we talk about every year. And we're like, is this the year? Is 2021 going to be the year? Sure enough, because back then we had the Switch Pro rumors. We were optimistic that Breath of the Wild 2 at the time was what we were calling it was going to come out. Obviously, both hindsight is 2020. Both those things were wrong. But then with 2022, we're like, oh, well, Tears of the Kingdom is coming this year. This is going to be the year. Maybe we'll get a new Xenoblade. Maybe we were going to get Splatoon. And, well, we did get a new Xenoblade. We were right about that. Xenoblade 3 did come. That was true. But Tears of the Kingdom, which was delayed till next year. Splatoon 3 is solid, and we have a few other good games like Bayonetta, and Pokemon is questionable. But it's been a pretty good year. I've enjoyed it a lot. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, I think, was a pleasant surprise for sure. But next year, the difference between 2021 and the difference between 2022 is that we pretty much know for a fact that the game we've all been waiting for is actually coming, and that's Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, in one of your videos you put out like a week or so ago, you had saw that on Nintendo's Latino America, right? Nintendo of Latino America.
Yep.
That they put out a little end of the year video, but they made mention that they are localizing a Spanish language for Tears of the Kingdom, which is news. It's big news. Yep. No clickbait there. That was hard news. And then a few days later,
there's a reason that video has 30,000 views and nothing else has it, because everything else is clickbait, I guess.
Yeah. Nah, I don't know. What do we define as clickbait? Because I put out a video a few days ago talking about Tears of the Kingdom to run at 60 FPS on a Switch 2. There's a question mark in the thumbnail. There's a question mark in the title. In the description, it's clearly phrased as a question of speculation. And at the beginning of the video, I say this is speculation.
It's not clickbait.
Some people call it clickbait, though.
Yeah. People yell clickbait about everything. As I found out today, the last video I made about Nintendo having that vulnerability that they were patching out, that video was called clickbait. I'm like, huh? What? What are we? What? Everything's clickbait? No. Guys, clickbait is a term that's being massively overused, and you can say, bias, I'm a content creator. I grew up with clickbait. It's not that complicated of a concept. The title and image associated with the title tells you something that's not actually in the content of the article or video. That's what clickbait is. It's pulling the rug out from under you. If you make an assumption about what something is that was never promised in the title or thumbnail, that's on you for making an assumption. As long as what's said in the title actually happens in the content, what's shown in the image is related to what happens in the content, then you're fine. Unfortunately, I think it's mostly because of the social media era, people just want to scream clickbait about any time that they let their minds run wild, even though they were never promised the thing they're running wild about.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion, though. I'm old, you know, the youngins these days. I actually wonder, like, I'm curious what the average age of the person who says clickbait in the comments. If there's like a correlation.
I don't know. I mean, you can argue everything is clickbait because obviously a title, a headline, a description.
The raw definition, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes. We want you to click on the video.
We want you to click on it.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah, yeah. If you actually, guys, look up the dictionary definition of clickbait, it just says something that entices you to click. Okay, that's what we want you to do. So you are correct. However, that's not what people mean when they say it. They mean
they're suggesting that you're lying and misleading.
Yeah.
Which is, that's not the intent. But anyway, yeah. So, you know, just kind of going back to this opening idea, like, can 2023 be the best year? Well, we're getting Tears of the Kingdom, right? As you pointed out, you know, there's a localization we already kind of knew that they were localizing because we had heard some voice actors talk about it before. But to hear it specifically from an official Nintendo channel, that's good news. Because then we know for a fact, right? There's nothing left for debate. It is being localized.
Spanish dub was being done specifically.
Specifically, exactly. Maybe they're not dubbing anything else, and I don't know. But we know for a fact at least that's being done, and I speak Spanish, so it'll be fine for me. But also,
for Breath of the Wild, we also learned the Spanish dub happened after the English dub and Japanese one was done. So
that makes sense.
The implication is
kind of putting the ducks
yeah.
in a row. The English and Japanese ones are done first, so
yeah,
kind of lets you know where in the process everything is.
Right, we're deep into the localization process. They're not just getting started.
No.
And then we got the ESRB rating. Just go to Nintendo's website. It's there. Nintendo's officially listing the ESRB rating now, which is E10. We've talked about that already. Breath of the Wild is E10. Majora's Mask is E10 on the 3DS. Like,
but there's no alcohol.
You know, actually, I kind of thought about that for a little bit. I think there still could be alcohol, but there may not be any clear objective allusions to it. Because, like,
you mean like a side quest related to a drunk person?
Yeah, well, like, what if there's the bar still there, but they just never literally tell you it's alcohol, but you still know it's alcohol because we played the Breath of the Wild. Like, I mean, Majora's Mask had a milk bar.
I always enjoy the milk bars, yeah.
Yeah, as long as they bring the milk bar back, we already know what that is. So.
Right. Yeah, if we see some guy slogging and they're like, oh, that's a drug. Well, I mean, he's drinking milk, probably. It's called a milk bar, so, you know. He's just had too much milk. He's probably lactose intolerant. But, whatever. Anyway, yeah, we got the ESRB rating. We got the localization. Those are all incredible signs that Tears of the Kingdom is on pace. Not to mention that Nintendo has given us a specific release date. That should be evidence in and of itself. It's very rare to have a date, like the actual day, be listed and for it to get delayed. When it's a window, yeah, there's room for debate there. We've seen that, obviously. That's what we thought last year, or we were worried about last year, and it was delayed. This game's coming. Even though Nintendo's not giving us much information on it, all other signs are pointing towards it coming.
Then we have a release date before we really even know what it is. It's weird.
It is strange.
Yeah.
It is strange. And we will touch on that tonight. But the major point is simply that with Tears of the Kingdom coming, I think now we can make that valid argument. Maybe 2023 will be the best year since 2017. Of course, now we don't have Splatoon 3 or a new generation of Pokemon or a Xenoblade to back it up. But we'll be talking about what games we may be seeing in 2023 that I think might support Tears of the Kingdom really well and giving 2023 like that, maybe that sort of mystique of being the best year yet. We'll get to that. Let's check in with the chat here first, and then we'll start jumping to the swing of things. So let's see here. My God, Odyssey Switch True promo with Tears of the Kingdom. I'm hoping. Unknown player. Hope we get something Metroid 2023. I think we are. Maybe we'll Well, I think we'll save that a little bit later for the column because I think that'll flow well. Nishwick pops in the chat. Yep. Let's see here. Gone Hunter, hello there. Rescue Squad Culp, hello. Javier Nunez, hello there. Natsu, Joyce J, thank you for modding. DE Fox, thank you for modding. Oh, Paul Dunn, you got a Lego set. Oh, so actually, funny thing, my brother got me a little Lego set too that I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I kind of ripped the cover, so please forgive me. But I got like a Luigi's Mansion Lego set, which I'm kind of excited about. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I'm not a child, but I thought it was cool.
I got a Horizon Zero Dawn themed one.
Oh, nice.
I can't show it right now because I don't have it
Not
upstairs,
on camera.
but it's cool.
That's cool.
You're not on camera.
It's I don't have it up here, so I'm also not on camera at the moment. But it's like a tall neck from the game. If you've ever played Horizon Zero Dawn, it says Forbidden West on the box, but I literally know where the location in Zero Dawn it's showing is, so that's kind of odd. But yeah, it's really cool. I love Legos.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm excited to build it. I haven't had time yet. Like, as I told you, I was busy dealing with the direct stuff with the predictions video on Saturday, which was Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve festivities, really cold. I had to build a fire, which was kind of fun actually. And then Sunday, I actually decided to spend the whole day with family because, you know, family's important. So yeah, I had a good Christmas actually. Thank you for asking, having Hope 5. Yeah, it was pretty good. But yeah, so I haven't had a chance to really like chill because I was like, all right. Woke up today, I was like, all right, gotta make a Zelda video. Okay, oh man, it's the 23 predictions podcast. We gotta do it. So, you know, here we are. But yeah, let's just jump into it. I think we're ready. Well, I got a point here I want to address from Megaton Menace. If you guys at me, by the way, I'm more likely to kind of focus in whatever you want to kind of talk about. But Megaton Menace added me and said, Tears of the Kingdom is just one game, so it coming out doesn't mean it'll be the best year. In my opinion, 2022 was better for Nintendo than 2017. Ooh, that's a very intriguing perspective. But I agree. I mean, I agree with it. Like, Tears of the Kingdom by itself probably doesn't make 2023 the best year, but I think it's one heck of a support. Like that puts it in, I think, in the conversation if it's supported.
I mean, it's their biggest title for sure. Like, the Nintendo doesn't have a bigger title for like hype than Zelda. So, like, even Mario, even a 3D Mario is not. It's close. It's not as big. Like, Tears of the Kingdom is the biggest game they could possibly have.
Yeah, there's other things I think they could support it, but I mean, like, how do we feel about 2022? Like, I liked 2022. I think it's a good year. I don't put it above 2017.
Good. Still a lot of games I need to play.
12 counting Sports Story. Sorry, you gotta count the Sports Story now. That came out on Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Finally, so 12. So we've hit the dozen, and a lot of them are pretty big games.
I mean, Legends Arceus came out in January. That was a great start to the year. Like, I think that is probably the best Pokemon game that's ever come out from Game Freak. Very good start to the year. And then Kirby came out in March. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and that's my favorite Kirby game ever. So we have arguably one of the best Pokemon games ever. Arguably one of the best Kirby games ever. I think it's already the best-selling Kirby game ever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it's got the sales, if it's got the review scores, and if it seems like fans think so, I think so. I think it's safe to say that Kirby and the Forgotten Land is the best Kirby game ever. So, best Kirby game ever. Legends Arceus, there's debate there, because it's kind of like different from the typical Pokemon game, but it's a really good Pokemon game, where there is minimal controversy, which is rare for Pokemon games these days. So, those are two like bangers right there. Xenoblade Chronicles 3,
Great.
You could argue is the best RPG on Switch.
The best. Yeah, it's widely considered the best one too.
Yeah, it should have won the best RPG of the year.
That game, but I'm not sure. I mean, I have yet to see the full ending, so we'll see. But I don't know if I'd say it's the best Xenoblade, but it's definitely close.
At the very least, it's very clearly an incredible game, and I mean, for me, it's my personal game of the year. So, you know, it was up
really
for
game of the year with all the other big names.
It was up there, yeah. Which I think is a huge achievement because no Xenoblade game really got any sort of like even nomination beforehand. So the fact that it was put into the category of Game of the Year along with Best Musical Score, which it definitely should have won, and also Best RPG, like that says a lot. Even if it didn't win any of those, it was still up for 3. That's a big deal. So I mean, Bayonetta 3, solid game. I think the jury's still out on that being the best in the series, but it's definitely a good game.
Apparently, it's the best action game of the year, according to the game.
It got best action of the year, yeah. You know,
it also could speak to maybe there wasn't that many action games this year, but hey, it's a good game, regardless. I mean, it's a 87 overall Metacritic. It's a good game.
Yeah, Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, also a solid game that came out. You know.
Yes, that's my game of the year.
And we got some solid third-party support too. Persona 5, The Royal came out.
Skip Splatoon 3 there.
I just got Splatoon 3. Yeah, I play that game.
kind of a big deal game.
I didn't forget it. I just didn't mention it yet. I decided to talk about third parties first. Okay.
I've never once played Splatoon 3 without getting mad.
Live Alive.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah. There was the really good port of slipping my mind. I played it on PlayStation. I didn't play it on my Switch.
Nier Automata?
Yeah, that one. So that came out. Like, I mean, it's been a good year. Now, how do we compare to 2023? I mean, not 2017. I mean, we're all these years, you know, just throwing me for a loop. But it's
plus Persona. Yeah. Got that too.
Yeah, Persona. I think
you forgot about the 2 best games, Switch Sports and Mario Strikers.
No,
Mario Strikers and Switch Sports.
Mario Strikers.
I mean, they came out. They exist.
Maybe.
They exist, and I think
people playing them.
They're solid entries. I you know, they
Golf update came out.
It's a legitimate sports title, and it's a legitimate Strikers title. Like, you know, so
sports title is just the most disappointing thing of the year for me. It's like the most basic features and nothing else.
Well, they added golf.
Like, I did not pick that game up. It was not worth it for me.
Golf.
Yeah, I don't care. It's just still just basic golf.
The gameplay is there. It's really just that people just argue that content is lacking.
Yeah, there's no content in the game.
So
I would have been much more excited if it was like a Switch Sports Resort. That would have been nice.
Mel, maybe it opens the door. So, you know.
I was gonna say, like, Wii Sports was way more popular than Wii Sports Resort, and Wii Sports had no content. It was just, here's the sport, play it.
Yeah.
Right, it was a packing game, so it has a little bit more of an excuse, but
yeah.
It also had boxing, which was awesome. Where's boxing, bro?
In the sequel.
I mean, we get to fight with katanas. That like wasn't in.
I mean, Switch Sports is still selling though. Like, they could have a DLC, like a paid DLC expansion, where maybe they add more content to the base games, or they add another sport like boxing. Like, the jury is out, but like, there's still room for that game to be expanded upon, you know. So
sure. We also had DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe this year.
And that's been coming out, and it's been getting better wave by wave. I mean, yeah, the years, it's a good year. I would definitely put it in the upper half of like Switch years, but I still can't put it above 2017 because, well, quite frankly, there's nothing that's better than Breath of the Wild. And Mario Kart 8 Deluxe released in April. I feel like we gotta give that it came April of 2017, okay? Like, that game came out a month after Breath of the Wild. And we also had ARMS and Splatoon 2. And there was a Fire Emblem Warriors, which matches the 3 Hopes of Warriors that came out this year, although I would say this one was probably a little bit better. But then also we had the Pokken Tournament Deluxe, we had Xenoblade Chronicles 2, we had Mario Odyssey, we had Snipper Clips, 1-2 Switch. I would say Switch Sports is probably better than that. But anyways, nothing beats Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey. So that's kind of like why I can't, in my mind, I just don't see how they beat that, because I mean, Xenoblade 2, Splatoon 2, I think match up relatively well to Xenoblade 3 and Splatoon 3. But there's nothing that quite matches up to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which we also got in 2017. And then we got arguably the best game of the generation with Breath of the Wild. And then arguably the second best game of the generation, at least for Switch, with Mario Odyssey in the same year. Like, I don't see how you beat that.
Like,
now without having a 3D Mario, 3D Zelda in 2022. I just don't see it.
Just to put this in perspective, not counting anything else, just looking at Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey, they are still to date the 2 highest rated games on the entire platform, both with 97 overalls on Metacritic in the same year. And there's been nothing even close. Like, the next highest is the Portal Companion Collection. The next highest from Nintendo, I mean, it doesn't happen until Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is 4 points lower. So there literally has not been a year where Nintendo's had 2 Game of the Year contenders released in the same year from them. Like, it just hasn't happened outside of
and also, I mean, there are other games, like, for example, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is put up for nomination, but Xenoblade 3 is not, while I love Xenoblade 3, it's definitely not a Mario Odyssey or Breath of the Wild level. Like, it's not in that conversation. It's a tier below, which is still incredible, right? Like I said, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is my personal game of the year, but it's just, I wouldn't say that 2022 is better, but 2022 did have solid variety, and perhaps that variety might appeal to more people. If you're not a big Mario or Zelda fan, I could maybe see why you might think 2022 is better.
Also, lots of Pokemon. And if you love both of the major games that came out, it was a great year for you then.
Yeah, if you're a Pokemon fan,
a lot of fun.
It's definitely better than 2017. That's for sure. Yeah, it's a good point. But
so, I mean, that's the thing about like when we talk about what years are better. It's all subjective. Like, what year had the games you enjoy the most? Well, that's going to be the year you thought was better. So, like, if you don't care that much about Breath of the Wild or Mario or Splatoon, suddenly that really downgrades 2017. Maybe Smash is more your thing. Or maybe Animal Crossing when that came out. Like, oh, that game alone might have made that a better year for you. Like, it's all going to be subjective. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, just me thinking personally, like, I was playing Metroid Dread into the earlier part of the year with the free DLC updates, and then Kirby was great, and I played Legends Arceus, and that was great. Scarlet and Violet, I've enjoyed. Xenoblade, I've enjoyed. Splatoon, I've enjoyed. I've played my Switch a lot this year, more so than some years, but it's definitely up there. But we need to move on because we actually got to do our actual predictions. So I'm going to get this super chat here, and then we'll move on. So got a super chat here from Sammy. Thank you very much for the super chat, Sammy. Sammy asks, do you think underground exploration will be extensive in Tears of the Kingdom? They seem to mainly be advertising the sky. So it's hard. We don't know, right? But I think something that, and I'm paraphrasing here, I will have to pull up the quote, but Eiji Aonuma, when he brought out the update, I'm trying to remember when it was. Okay, when they delayed the game, when they had that update of the development that they had to delay the game to 2023, it was discussed by Aonuma that yes, the skies are great. I'm heavily paraphrasing here, but this is basically to the same effect. That they're adding sky gameplay, it's awesome, but we're also expanding the world of Hyrule in different ways, so look forward to that. So he made sure to note that they are doing other things beyond just the sky. Now, they are heavily marketing the sky. The sky may be like the biggest change, but the door has been left open for other realms to be expanded upon as well. I mean, given that this game has had the longest development time for any Zelda, and they were building off of Breath of the Wild and its world, I think I can say with some optimism that there's going to be other areas of Hyrule that are going to be expanded upon. Like, we're not just going to like retread the same world on the ground. Like, it's not just like, hey, we're adding a new sky and everything else is the same. There's going to be more stuff. It's been largely speculated that there'll be more water gameplay. There'll be changes to the land. Maybe they'll expand the boundaries a little bit more. That's an option too. I imagine there's going to be a lot of changes within it. But also, I speculate there's going to be underground exploration. The first trailer suggested there would be. I would say that at the very least, that area they show off in the first trailer, if they didn't like take that out of the game, like if the whole story of Ganondorf being resurrected, which I think is fairly evident from the other trailers, like I think we're going to be able to explore that. And that's underground, and based off the trailer, it's pretty big. So, I'm going to say we can. Now, some people may argue, well, that was just a cutscene. Why they don't have to put that in the game? They don't, but if Breath of the Wild was a full and open air game, then you can literally go everywhere in that game. Then I don't see how they have this huge cutscene for the first trailer in the game, and we don't get to explore it ever. So I think at least what we saw in that first trailer will be explored. And from the different shots, there are several rooms, some of them pretty big. And I doubt it's going to be the only like underground area in the game. So I'm going to say that there will be underground explanation, not exploration.
Explanation.
There will be an explanation of how to explore the underground, but there will actually be exploration underground, I think. I don't know if it's going to be as extensive as the sky, but it's going to be way more extensive than what we got in Breath of the Wild, which was 0. So, and I bet there's going to be caves too, because Breath of the Wild didn't really have too much of that. They were pretty rare and not very deep. I don't know if you guys agree with that statement or series of statements I made.
Assuming that it's not like pre-rendered or something. Well, it's probably pre-rendered, but assuming it's not using non-in-game assets, they seem to have like completely redone how the lighting works in underground areas in general. In that trailer, like it looks completely different than like caves look in the original game. So it seems like they focused on making sure that like underground areas actually look good. Again, assuming that's how it actually looks in the game. So it would be surprising for me that they took all that time to like overhaul all this, and then they're just like, nope, there's no more caves. This is the only underground section, and you only see it in a trailer or in a cutscene, and that's it. That would be very surprising to me.
I don't think there's going to be much underground stuff.
Twist.
Why?
Like, I think like the one shot where his arm turns into a dragon and he spits the fire out, I think that's just Death Mountain. I don't think there's anything reading more into being anything more than Death Mountain, which has always had sort of an underground theme. There, and then I think some of the stuff with like when we see the wall with the ancient, scribe stuff on it, and they're walking with the giant elephant looking thing. I think all of that's just underneath Hyrule Castle, and that's just like a whole section that you deal with, and then that's it. I don't think there's like really anything else.
That whole first trailer where we see the resurrection of presumably Ganondorf.
Yep.
We do explore that. Like that's my point. But you're saying that that's it. Like that there'll be one cool underground area, but there's not going to be a lot of underground areas.
And it's not just some giant cutscene, which I guess it could be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I'm arguing is that because I don't think they're going to give us any cutscene in the game that we won't be able to explore.
I think I'll just say this: we'll spend less than an hour and a half underground playing this game, which is not very much for a game that's like hundreds of hours long.
My counter argument is Zelda fell really into a really deep dark hole, so I feel like I don't know. I bet most people are gonna spend more than an hour and a half underground. I think that's
just staring at runes on a wall. I agree, but
you see some weird stuff with Death Mountain. I kind of have a suspicion that you might explore like a dungeon inside Death Mountain,
but
which
that's
would
not
technically
you mean
count
like
as
every
more
other
underground.
Zelda game ever?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I said that was going to be a thing. It's
Yeah.
going to be a dungeon. It's going to be something.
Yeah,
in Death
but
Mountain.
that's not underground. That's in the mountain.
Yeah, not technically.
Yeah,
it's in a
so,
mountain. Yeah,
Does that not count as under the ground?
it's under the mountain. Mountains are above ground, so it's a weird.
Well,
I guess mountains are technically also ground.
If we're gonna have a measuring of sea level, we're gonna be technically above sea level. But maybe you can get all the way to the bottom of the mountain, and at that point, it is a little underground. Okay, we all played Ocarina of
We
Time,
also know
right?
there's just like the shrines were underground, so it's like to a certain extent we don't know how far underground the shrines are, like how long you go down before you get to them, but there is just like stuff there, so it's not like there isn't stuff under the ground already.
Okay. Well, I've always
So
thought
they
of it
kind of
as
have to like work around that, I guess.
Would that be crazy if like Hyrule Castle goes up in the air, and like what we see down there is like parts of shrines that are just like cut in half and destroyed because they did exist underground?
be interesting.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
just throwing that thought out there because, if you think of you do go on an elevator like thing, I guess they exist underground somewhere.
Yeah. Let's start getting into our predictions though. We got about 25 minutes before we do our call in, so we'll start talking about Metroid around then. But yeah, let's just get started. Nate, Just give me your first prediction. First prediction.
We're getting a Mario game.
Oh, I agree. I think
Plain
we're getting a
and
Mario
simple.
game.
2D or 3D. Either
2D
way, we're getting
or
one.
3D.
Doesn't matter. It could be side-scrolling or 3D. I mean, it's been so long. We're getting something. It's gonna happen. Deal with it.
Okay.
We're getting a Mario movie next year. They're gonna capitalize on the
Insane.
Mario movie. We're gonna have a game. It's happening.
What do you think, Brandon? Do you agree?
I mean, I don't disagree. So I guess I agree then. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I mean, I agree too. I mean, yeah, with the Mario movie, like I think Nintendo would be foolish to not do it. So there is this thing that Nintendo talks about in their financials pretty often is how I personally call it Nintendo's master plan, but basically their idea is to push their IP, develop quality core content, and then they create merchandising, they create movies, or they're starting to, theme parks, as they're starting to, and mobile games that expand the audiences of those IP. That it allows those IP to touch other audiences, reach other audiences, and then those people see those different things and then come back to the core IP, and then that helps to boost hardware sales and software sales. The best example that comes to mind is with Pokemon. When Pokemon Go came out, the next Pokemon game had incredible sales. Like there was a clear sales spike because of Pokemon Go. And Nintendo since has continually done different things like this to boost sales. And I feel pretty confident saying the Mario movie is going to be the most lucrative video game movie ever made. I feel strongly in saying that. I don't. You could say I'm wrong, but I think a lot of people are going to agree with that. Or if not, it's going to become close. But either way, it's clearly going to bring in numbers and a lot of people's attention. Nintendo will be losing out a lot of sales by not having a Mario game ready. And the last time we had a 3D Mario was 2017. 2D Mario? I mean, if we count like brand new 2D Mario, what, 2012?
Oh,
So,
man.
yeah, something's coming. That I think we all agree with. But which one is coming, or are both coming next year?
I'm gonna just. It's weird to even bring this up, but because I think it's a mistake. But I think Super Mario Odyssey 2 is going to be a game.
Is it literally going to be
Okay.
called Mario Odyssey 2, or you just mean like the next 3D
No,
Mario?
literally, because we had those. You guys might not remember. This is like 2021. We had those leaked
Yeah,
surveys,
yeah.
and one of them was Sonic Frontiers, which obviously everything on that thing was
Yeah.
true. And one was Mario Odyssey 2. Well, there's a movie coming, and I think it's personally, in my opinion, I think it's a little late to do an Odyssey 2.
Yeah.
Then again, Odyssey is still in like the top 5 best-selling games on Switch, and the last time they did Odyssey, it sold incredible. So maybe they felt they wanted to do it different than with Galaxy 2, where Galaxy 2 came out so close. Maybe they felt like there wasn't enough time between those games. Whereas if they gave it more time and added more unique features, so it didn't just feel like you're redoing Mario Odyssey again. No, we're doing a 2, but it's like a meaningful 2. It's gonna feel like it's not as reliant on what the first game set up.
Kind of like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild.
Cappy. You still might use Cappy, but it'll
Okay.
be in completely different ways than we
Okay.
used Cappy before.
So, I'll say I
Something like that.
remember my personal conclusion from that little leak from the marketing materials, right? It was like a questionnaire, right? A survey.
Yeah,
Was that some of those were just potential ideas,
sure.
and they just kind of put that in there because people will take those surveys not knowing which one was actually going to be real, but you know, it's just kind of there just to kind of gauge what people would want, and that was what it was, because some of those ideas that they had there were going to become real things, but not all of them, and they just threw out a whole bunch of ideas. Some ideas that people might find believable, like an Odyssey 2 at the time, it made sense. But now, years later...
Also, the company who sent out those surveys has previously worked with Nintendo.
So, I mean, it's possible, for sure.
I
But
feel like
again,
they
we
would
haven't heard
only
anything since
do.
then, obviously, so we have no idea.
I think they would only call it Mario Odyssey 2 if it was like even
Well, I don't think that's the
more of a
final name.
sequel than the other. Or you don't think that will be the actual name?
I don't think it'll be the final name. It'll have Odyssey in
Okay.
it somewhere, but I don't know if they're gonna go with a number.
Yeah, I think the only reason they would go with the number is if it was like happened right after Odyssey and it was like the storyline was tied in. Because even like Sunshine happens right after N64, right? But it's still not like you don't need to know what happened in N64 to know
No,
what
yeah,
happens in Sunshine, right? But if it was the case where Odyssey's just storyline just continued for some reason, which I don't even know how they would do that and make it make sense, that would be the only reason. Because otherwise, I don't think it's gonna be just like Mario Galaxy 2, which is the only other it's the only one that's ever been numbered because it was like came out so quickly. It was the pretty much a retelling of the same kind of story as the original. So I don't know. I think it would be a brand new name. Also, I think it would have to be a new name if it was like a big launch title for their new system, which some people think might happen. So, you know, should I predict that just for fun? It's just for funsies.
So what's your official prediction for funsies?
For funsies, it's not going to be called Mario Odyssey 2 because it's going to be a brand new game that's going to launch for both a new system and the Switch. So it's got to feel wholly unique. So, I'll add that as a prediction there.
Okay. So for me, right, I don't think it's going to call Mario Odyssey 2 either. I think the boat has sailed on that. But to play devil's advocate, Tears of the Kingdom is coming out in May. And the sequel to Breath of the Wild, if we assume this new Mario game comes out holiday, pretty much about the same pace. Like the gaps are the same. So, I mean, if we can have a direct sequel to to Breath of the Wild 6 years later.
Also, notably, Odyssey's the best-selling 3D Mario game ever.
Yeah,
it's not even close. So you can understand why they maybe want to follow that up.
Yeah. So I get that. I still don't think it's gonna have the same title, but I do think a 3D Mario is definitely close to completion, if not already done, and just kind of sitting in a warehouse somewhere, or a cabinet. And so I was like, all right, time to. It's obviously gonna be a file somewhere, but the thing is, though, I think it kind of depends on if there's new hardware or not. Because I feel that if Nintendo skips Tears of the Kingdom, then they would want to use Mario to push that hardware. You're shaking your head.
I don't think they need Mario to launch hardware. They've launched hardware Mario before and it didn't do well.
Yeah, which is why I think they're more likely to do it with Zelda. But
sure,
I'm just considering possibilities. If they skip Zelda,
Mario Kart.
But we're getting Mario Kart DLC right now. How long do we have to wait?
This is on the presumption if there's no new hardware next year. Well, then we're done with the DLC after next year. So when they do launch new hardware, they can launch it with Mario Kart.
I still don't think Mario Kart's coming out in 2024, though, as much as I'd want it, just because we're getting...
new hardware is coming 2024?
I mean, they could push
Mario Kart. You think
Kart.
at the long haul.
Yeah. Yeah.
They keep selling, 19, 20 million systems, and there's no reason. Keep it going.
Yeah.
By the way, I want new hardware. This isn't like a prediction. I'm just kind of like
right.
A lot of people are quick to assume new hardware coming off 19 million in sales in a year, which would be a peak year for Nintendo on any other system. So it's kind of like you could see where Nintendo goes, hey, we have a lot of games. We're not even thinking about dropping this anymore.
And I'm glad you brought that up. We're gonna talk about this after the Collins segment because I think we're gonna have a dedicated hardware topic segment here. Like we're gonna do that after the Collins segment. We're gonna focus on Metroid. But my point simply is, I agree we're getting Mario. But if we're not getting new hardware next year, I think they're going to space Mario out to come out maybe 2024, and maybe get a 2D Mario instead this year, which we're also due. And if we do get new hardware this year, then it's the other way around. 2D Mario comes out the year afterwards. That's my
We'll see.
personal prediction, which is it's multifaceted. Depends on what happens, but yeah.
As things evolve.
Do you guys think there's any potential for both Mario games to come out this year?
Yes.
2D and 3D.
Yep. 2D, 3D.
But I mean, there's always potential for things, but I think it's a pretty low chance.
I say yes.
I would
because
not expect that.
They've done it before. It was just split across platforms. Now it's all one platform, so they could do one in the summer, one for holiday.
Yeah. I could see that. I didn't predict that, but I could see that.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I think we're only gonna get one, but I think it's because of all the other games they're gonna have coming. Why we're only gonna get one.
I think
But
when you have only one platform, there's no need to launch two huge titles and one of your biggest franchises in the same year.
But they
You
just
can
did
just
it with
space it out.
Pokemon. They just did it with Pokemon.
Yeah, well, true.
Yeah.
Pokemon's also not necessarily Nintendo specifically.
Pokemon's crazy, a little crazy though, because they're like really strict about getting games out every year.
Sure. Well, I don't think we could argue if they drop 2 Mario games next year that they are rushing themselves here.
I don't think they're rushed. I think they both get like
Like
they've been waiting.
like a 2D, like a side-scrolling one would have been over a decade.
Yeah.
The other one's 6 years. Like
Yeah.
Right, I can see that for sure because it's been so long.
unless we're counting Mario Maker and Mario Maker 2. I guess you can count those.
And that is
Well,
a year where they
Mario
came
team
out
were
with
done.
2D Marios in the same year, technically.
with
so it's not like,
less than 6 months. NSMBU Deluxe was
but
January.
technically one of them was a remake, or not a remake, but like
Remaster,
a port.
enhanced port.
Yeah.
But still, that enhanced port has sold over 13 million. So
It's wild because that game is garbage. I'm not gonna lie. Hot takes from me here, but I don't like that game.
what's interesting though is that you would think that Mario Maker would be like, some people kind of look at Mario Maker as like a superior version of 2D Mario, but what sold more? That dog shit game you just said. Well, you didn't use the term dog shit. It's not dog shit. It's a good
Not
game.
quite that
People
bad.
like
It's not
playing
even
games
quite
that have like
garbage. It's
objectives.
just very mediocre.
That's the problem with Mario Maker is there's no objectives. That's why it doesn't sell as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's a user user content creation platform, which is incredible, and people love it. And there are people that swear by it, and they play it all the time. I mean, Bob Wolf over at Wolf Den, he's literally his most played game every year is Mario Maker 2. I get it, it's awesome, but for the general populace, they like games that have a purpose, and there's not really a purpose to it. It's just play to have fun. And as much as we talk about the story doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. There is an end to every Mario game, and that's the purpose, to get to the end.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel that. Like, if the game has no clear objective, eventually I would just stop. And not even that, like, far in, usually. Like, I didn't play that much of Mario Maker 2. I played maybe, like, 10, 20 hours, and then I gave up. I gave up. I just dropped the game.
Sure.
Yeah. I can see it. But I regardless, I think we're all pretty much on the same page. We're getting something Mario. I think it seems like we're all leaning more so 3D, which makes total sense there. But
I'll say this: there will be multiple Mario games. One will be mainline. The other, I have no idea. Could be new Paper Mario for all I know. But there'll be something. They have a ton of Mario spin-off games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, Paper Mario. Like the last time we got one was that 2020?
2019?
2020.
2020. That's right.
2020.
2020.
I feel like.
I mean, I would be down. It just seems a little early.
I thought it was no, I guess whatever. I'll leave that alone. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be that. It could be a new Mario and Luigi game.
Mario and Luigi, people would kill for. That would be
Dude,
crazy.
So, like,
I wonder what studio would handle that.
Oh,
yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
that's why people think we'll never get one again. But it doesn't mean
I want one so bad. It's such a good series. I mean, lately it's been kind of lame, but Thousand Sunset Story, such a good RPG. Oh my god.
So, Brandon, we have about 10 minutes for our call-in segment. Do you have a prediction that we think we can wrap up in about 8 minutes? If you don't, I do.
I have a prediction.
Go. All right, go.
That You know what? Instead of 2D Mario, we'll get 2D Donkey Kong. We gotta have something tie in to Donkey Kong, and you know that's what we'll get. We'll get a 3D Mario and we'll get 2D Donkey Kong. That's what I'm predicting.
Okay. I hear you
Even
there.
though I was so close to predicting that we won't get Donkey Kong, because I think the part comes out in 2025 or something. So, or 2024, I mean.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? Anyway, I'm just gonna go with it. You know, screw it.
I see what you're saying. But I'm just gonna say, how dare you call this like this is not an 8-minute topic, Brandon. This is Donkey Kong. This is a big freaking deal. Like, we don't have enough. There's not enough time to talk about Donkey Kong.
Not enough time.
No. The Donkey Kong Park expansion. I keep forgetting when it's supposed to happen. Is it 2024 or is it 2025? 'Cause this does matter.
I believe it's 2024.
I hope so. Yep, you're right. And apparently it's gonna boost the park size by 70%. That's crazy. So that's huge. I mean that means it's not as big as the Mario area, but it's a significant expansion.
And the Mario area will always be the biggest.
Probably.
So I think every time you enter, that's gonna be the area you enter, and then you go through that to get to everything else.
Yeah.
We'll see. Obviously, we haven't started construction yet, so we don't know yet.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I predicted the same thing, Brandon. I think Donkey Kong is coming, and I actually agree. I don't know why. It's just I think part of it is because I think it makes sense to have a variety of gameplay. To your point, so we're getting 3D Mario next year. I think a 2D Donkey Kong would fit. Now, but I also don't think when I say 2D, I think it's gonna be 2D, but it's not gonna be like that. I don't want that to mean, hey, this is gonna be like a small title. No, this is gonna be a big deal game. It's gonna be kind of like Metroid Dread quality, where like it's gonna have still like 3D visuals. There's gonna be a lot of moments where it's maybe behind the shoulder. There's maybe like fully 3D boss fights. Like it's gonna be maybe more like a 2.5D kind of game. And I think the best example that comes to mind beyond Metroid Dread is another Donkey Kong game in Jungle Beat that we got on the GameCube, where it was basically country gameplay with 3D visuals, but side-scrolling. But the boss fights were behind the shoulder. So you still got a lot of really cool 3D visuals. So I'm expecting something like that for Donkey Kong. And I feel like that could be a summer game. I mean, with Donkey Kong having such like a big part of the Mario movie, like strike while the iron's hot. Like who's to say that there can only be one game that takes advantage of a movie's popularity? Why can't Nintendo have a Donkey Kong that takes advantage of the increased popularity of Donkey Kong thanks to the Mario movie, and then also a Mario game as well? Like I'm on the same page. So, but I'll also say I think there's also pretty much an equally good chance that this Donkey Kong game comes out next year. And I mean 2024.
Yeah.
Like, so it could go either way, but for the sake of fun, I will agree that Donkey Kong is coming next year, but it's gonna be a 2D Donkey Kong game or a 2.5D.
Yeah, I'm very 50-50 on it, but I'm just gonna go ahead and predict it because I want to see it. Tropical Freeze is my favorite 2D platformer.
Mhm.
I want to follow up. It's been a while.
What do you think, Nate? Do you agree or you disagree?
Nope.
No.
Disagree.
You disagree.
I don't think they're even working on one. I think all the rumors and everything is
Oh.
all lie.
You take it back.
No.
That's fair.
I would be very shocked if they weren't.
I
working
am
on
of opinion
Donkey
that at
Kong.
one point, Retro Studios was working on another one, and they got shit canned, and it hasn't been touched since.
Okay.
Could be wrong, by the way. I
yeah.
have no idea. These are just predictions, but I'm predicting no DK next year.
Well,
Zero confidence.
I think there's a 50% chance you're right. I do believe that Donkey Kong, there is a Donkey Kong game that is either complete or is in the works. That I believe, for a number of reasons, but there's a lot of public reasons. Like we've seen the Donkey Kong Park, for example, the influence of Donkey Kong in the movie. There were the rumors that there might do a Donkey Kong movie afterwards, but I'm not gonna buy into that fully until we see more proof. But either way, I think the Donkey Kong expansion is that's kind of telling.
Yeah.
I would say so.
It's very suspicious how much they're going into Donkey Kong with how little like the games are relevant these days. It's strange. I mean, they're history, but like history doesn't give you sales.
Nintendo cares a lot about history, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot. And DK is the reason Mario exists. So.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like, let's say that all the rumors we talked about a couple years ago completely false, which I don't think that. But if they were, Nintendo's still gonna eventually make a Donkey Kong game. Like, it's not like we're never gonna see Donkey Kong a game again. Like, what Donkey Kong has in its favor compared to Star Fox and F-Zero and Wave Race, what are you doing?
It's gonna be a mobile game.
A mobile game.
I just
You guys
imagine.
laugh.
I just
Donkey
Donkey
imagine.
Kong
in a
is
while.
perfectly set up to be a runner on the phone.
I just
Like, it
imagine
literally is the
shattering
perfect
a
match.
glass table when you said that.
But seriously, the way Donkey Kong gameplay works, it's like perfectly set up to be a runner on a phone.
I
It
agree.
just makes too much sense.
That there could be a Donkey Kong game that is mobile, and if it ends up being a Maze Runner copy, I will shatter a glass table. I mean, I will play it.
No, it doesn't need to
yeah.
be a Maze Runner. You could have to hold your phone sideways, and it'll just be traditional side-scrolling Donkey Kong, except he just always is moving forward at a certain speed. But otherwise, it's just normal Donkey Kong.
I don't know.
I mean,
And
It'd
if
be
you
fine.
if you mess up and you miss like a barrel or you miss whatever, it's just like in any other DK game when you
Yeah.
fall off the map. You fall off the map, it kicks you back further in
So,
the level,
but-
and you keep going.
The issue
I
with
mean,
that,
Mario Run is fine.
right?
and
But
it's
that's
good,
why.
but I don't.
Yeah,
think it's,
Mario
like,
Mario
it's-
runs pretty good. It was the model they used that ended up hurting.
Yeah, so
It's
what do they do
wonderful.
to make the model work? Because they have the Pokemon Go model, right? They kind of basically fashion Pikmin off of that, right? The Fire Emblem Heroes model obviously works. That's basically a gacha mechanic game, right? And I'm sure there's differences, but I'm just kind of generalizing. And then Mario Kart is kind of similar too. There's just a whole bunch of like different things you can purchase and like roll for,
Mostly
right?
cosmetic.
Yeah, but that's basically a gacha mechanic too. Like, so they got the gacha stuff, they have the Go stuff. Like, those work. What would they do for Donkey Kong to make it work?
You
Cosmetic.
just have to go the
Cosmetics.
most annoying
Completing
route
levels
possible.
earns you currency, or you could that gives you like a random barrel you can hit to get random cosmetics, and instead you or maybe like a random boost item that makes you run a little faster if you want, jump a little higher, or or you could just buy.
Yeah, I'll say this:
Special
there's a lot of Donkey Kong characters.
Yeah, sure, that too.
There's a lot
You
of
could have
Donkey Kong
unlockable characters
They could
with
and they could
slightly
wear
different
different
abilities.
clothes. You can give them different clothes.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways they
Sure.
can make it work. There's other games similar to the idea I'm talking about that do this exact same thing. Like, it's not complicated. Nintendo just copied
Yeah.
what the games that are already successful. I hate saying that, but I'm not looking for Nintendo to innovate the mobile game space.
Sure.
Just being,
Yeah.
just to be like, I don't need the innovation. What I want is a mostly ad-free experience. And if you know what, every now and then you remind me I can buy little coins to get cosmetics, I'm cool with that, because that already makes you better than all the other versions of the games out there that are ad supported, and you just get an ad every 5 seconds.
Yeah. So I'll say this: I think eventually there could be a Donkey Kong mobile game, and I think that's fine. But there's no way in hell Nintendo's only going to make
Or
a Donkey Kong.
Diddy Kong
mobile
Racing.
game. If
Bring it
anything,
back, mobile.
here's a whole other thing. If you're right, and they do
That'd be
eventually make
so
a Donkey Kong mobile game, that'll just be more proof that there's a real game around the corner. Let's think about this for a second. No, hold on. The same argument I've made for a new Donkey Kong game is the same argument I've made for a new Pikmin game, and I'm right. Think about it. We talked about for a long while that there was it was strange that there was a lot of Pikmin all throughout the Nintendo Universal Park. Why were they doing that? It was strange that they had Pikmin 3 Deluxe and then had a Pikmin mobile game. Yet, what of all those things have now actually led to that we argued for a long time that Pikmin 4 is on the way? And Pikmin 4 has been confirmed as of last September, and we're supposedly getting in 2023. So, by the way, one of my predictions is that Pikmin 4 will not be delayed, and it is coming out in 2023. But, yeah, so that was the argument for Pikmin, and it's proven true. Look at Donkey Kong. Now, it isn't just like little statues of Kongs hidden throughout the Mario part of the park. They are literally planning an entire Donkey Kong Park expansion. Not to mention the Mario movie. They're paying way more attention to Donkey Kong than they need to. Because let's face it, we look at all the different Mario games. They don't have that much of a Donkey Kong influence. They are putting the Donkey Kong influence into this Mario movie. That was a decision they made
I got one.
to add a
for you.
whole other level, a whole other layer here. What were you gonna say?
I thought about this after the last Mario movie trailer, where there was a lot of Kong action.
Mm-hmm.
What if they're gonna be reintroducing the Kongs as enemies in Mario games in the future?
As enemies, Kongs as enemies
instead of running their own game series because they seem to have a hard time selling.
No,
bring them back as
but
another core enemy. So
but the thing
mix
is,
things up so it's not always
the
Bowser
thing is
and the Koopas.
the Donkey Kong games
Sometimes
do
it's also
sell.
the Kongs.
They sell better than other series that Nintendo does do. So the country games,
kind of,
they sell better than Xenoblade.
Yeah, but there's a difference. They bought a studio that was only making those kind of games, and they rely heavily on that studio for a lot of their other big games. So if that studio keeps telling you they want to keep making these games, you're gonna just say yes so you don't lose talent.
Does the same apply for Fire Emblem with their intelligence systems?
Intelligence systems? Probably.
I mean, they
except
partially
Fire Emblem was
outsourced,
on the chopping block at one point. They said that in an interview.
but then Awakening came out and did pretty well.
And then Awakening broke records, and then they said, okay, we'll keep it around now. But it's, to be fair to Fire Emblem, it's ended up selling pretty well since then too. But it's like I don't know if Awakening reinvigorated popularity. I don't know. It's a franchise that was never super popular, so it does well enough now. But yeah, I think there are certain studios that have a bit more pull. And I think a studio Nintendo bought that's Japanese focused that was already making these kind of games, they heavily rely on, be like, hey, if you want to keep making them, keep making them. We're not going to stop you. Like, as long as we keep using your teams for our other big games, we're good. Like, you keep doing you. And they seem more open with Monolith Soft doing whatever they want versus Retro Studios, who they are like afraid to let them do anything they want to do. So, poor Retro Studios. I can't even say I love those guys because I don't even know who works there anymore because the whole team has changed since I was a kid. So
I think we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on Donkey Kong, and we'll see what happens within the next 2 years.
I'm probably, by the way, guys, I'm wrong 77% of the time, so I'm probably wrong on this.
I'm wrong 50% of the time, so I say.
Yeah, I'm mostly wrong. I literally don't know why anyone watch. Here's the thing: people only come to my videos for the news. The moment I start giving opinions, they all dip out. Don't blame them.
I'll check out of that.
Literally don't blame them.
So let's put a little poll here. I'm gonna now bring in Nish Quick Pops for our call-in, where we're gonna talk about Xenoblade and Metroid. We'll discuss our Metroid predictions during this segment, but I want to put a little poll here. I'm just curious what you guys think. On
I'm just taking a quick bathroom break. I'll be right back.
You do your best. While I pull up this poll, I forgot to put up a poll. Start a poll.
Question.
I mean, that's pretty clear. What'd you say, Brandon?
I was also saying I don't remember how to do the poll.
I got it.
Yeah. I guess just to fill dead space while we're doing those things.
All right.
It's hard to predict things with the ever looming notion that a Switch 2 may or may not release next year. Because a lot of my decisions on what I want to predict heavily depends on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that was tricky for me in my predictions because I had to literally create 2 predictions. It was not easy. Yeah, and I'm very excited for when we get to our Switch revision or not topic after the call-in because there's gonna be a lot to dissect there. But it definitely impacts things. We brought up earlier. I was like, oh, do we get a 2D Mario or 3D Mario? And I think new hardware does impact that because if we're not getting new hardware, and Tears of the Kingdom is just gonna come out with an OLED edition in May, then why would Nintendo need a 3D Mario for the holiday? They might as well save it for when hardware is ready. Of course, Nate's arguing Mario Kart, but I would say Mario Kart is years away. I think 2024 is too soon. I don't think you add a whole new Mario Kart game less than a year after DLC where you double the amount of tracks in the game. They basically, normally when we get a new Mario Kart game, we get 32 tracks. They're adding 48 to a game that already has 48 for a total of 96 tracks. So you know what I mean? That's I just don't see them doing that.
They're very similar both to Smash Brothers, where it feels like their next entry is very far off.
Right. So, maybe we do have to wait until like 2025 or so for a new Mario Kart, or even 2026. But does that mean that's how long we wait for new hardware? If we're waiting that long for next generation, I think we still could see like a mid-gen refresh. But we'll come back to that. I see here that Nate is back. All right, now we're going to add Nish Quick Pops. So I'm actually going to link a video from Nish Quick Pops. You can subscribe to him, check out the video after the stream. And I'm going to invite him into the call right now. So just give me one moment to add him in real quick. One moment here. Okay. I'm trying to add you. Discord's not letting me add for some reason. I don't know why it's being funky.
Discord always being funky in some way or another.
Always. Like, how do I have you as a friend, so how can I not add you? I don't understand. I should be able to just add you to the call. One moment. I'm figuring this out. Okay, what I'll do in this week, I don't know if you're listening to the stream, I'm going to send an invite to or just click on that, and that should add you to the call. So click on that. Nope. I sent you your own video. My mistake.
Hell yeah.
Okay. That should be it. Yeah. So join that. I just sent you the invite. And then we should be good to go.
Hey, there's something. There it is.
Oh, awesome. Cannot hear you, Nishquick. You might have to add your microphone in the settings.
Yeah, Discord settings are fun. Not.
Yeah.
We're almost set up, guys. Nishquick is in the call. We just got to get his audio in. Do you know where your settings are? One moment.
He said, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
You just got to go mess with him and find his mic.
Yeah. All right, so let me put us.
Sometimes my camera doesn't work. If I have like Streamlabs open, then it doesn't work on Discord. It's weird.
Yeah. Sometimes I get into the call and I just can't hear anybody, and I'm like, oh, my settings messed up. Nope,
All right.
I just gotta restart the whole app. And then it works.
We're on camera now. Nishquick, don't worry. If you can't get it working, we'll do this on Thursday, but take your time. While you figure it out, right? Just work on it, figure it out. Let's continue the Donkey Kong part of the conversation.
All right. Sure.
Yeah.
I'm probably the only person in the world that thinks it's not coming.
Well, I mean, I'm sure some people think so. So,
I don't know about that. We'll see.
Some people doubt it. I put out a poll, actually. Let's see where the poll's at. So
yeah, we can see user feedback in real time.
I can see user feedback in real time.
Crazy.
That
it's
is
almost
true.
like we're live.
It's almost like we're live. Yeah. My question was, I asked specifically, is Donkey Kong Switch happening within the next 2 years? So far, it's only been 43 votes, so it's still, still going. Guys, vote. But right now, it's 81% yes, 19% no.
Told you, you're getting slaughtered.
But these are just opinions. You can never be certain.
What that does
right?
mean is there's like maybe 6 more other people that agree with me, so I'll just take that.
Yeah.
I speak for the vocal minority.
Yeah.
Or I did a really good job convincing 6 people and a really bad job convincing the 40 other.
It's all right. It's all right. maybe, yeah. I mean, the thing is, maybe everyone was like 100%. Like, what if it was gonna be 100? You know, and you
I'm
change
wrong.
it to 17. I would consider that a win.
And here's the thing: the votes are slowly getting worse, despite no more votes coming in. So people are changing their votes. See, this is just I'm done.
Well,
I'm slaughtered.
there's actually been additional votes, so
I'm slaughtered. That's all right.
yeah, I keep changing the scene.
Hello.
Oh, we can hear you.
Hey, there's some audio.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is coming from my webcam. I don't know why my mic isn't working. So, okay, hold on. Just give me a bit.
That's
Sorry
okay.
about this.
We can hear you though.
That's
Yeah.
all right. Take your time. We're chilling.
I
Yeah,
can even switch to my phone. Just hold on a sec.
sure.
Yeah, I can even do that. Hold
Yeah,
on a sec.
that'll work. That's all right. I know I keep switching between the different formats for 3 and 4 people, but
Fun.
let's go over this super chat here real quick while Nish quick figures this out. So, Taker610, thank you very much for the super chat, Taker. Says, I think new hardware is revealed in March along with exclusive games being revealed, and the reveal that Tears of the Kingdom launches is cross-gen. Hey Nish quick, you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Awesome, fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. This is the first time Discord is being this weird.
No,
But
that's
hello.
Yeah, hi, welcome.
Let me tell you, it happens like every week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
fine. So
Awesome being on a call with Andres Restart and Nintendo Prime. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm a
welcome.
big fan of both of you guys, by the way.
Awesome. No, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
Yeah.
get to the topics we talked about earlier. I just first want to get to the super chat from Taker, and then we'll jump into it. All right, Nish, quick.
Right. Yeah,
Alright.
sure thing.
All right, cool. So yeah, Taker had again given me a super chat. Thank you, and said I think new hardware is revealed in March, along with exclusive games being revealed, and the reveal that Tears of the Kingdom launches is cross-gen. So you think new hardware? I'm trying. My brain's trying to. Yeah. So the new hardware is revealed in March, along with exclusive games being revealed for it, and the reveal that Tears of the Kingdom launches is cross-gen. So you're saying in March they're gonna announce the new hardware, and they're gonna say it's Tears of the Kingdom is launching with it in May, but it's coming out for both systems, and there's gonna be exclusive games announced for this new system then. So I think this will be a very relevant topic of conversation once we move on to that topic. I will say that I don't know if March seems too late, but I also
Yeah.
think that maybe not, because also like we see Nintendo have incredibly quick turnarounds. I think March is possible if it's more of like a mid-gen refresh, but if it's a true next gen, I think they need a little bit more than 2 months of a window to kind of gear themselves up. What do you guys think? Nishwick, feel free to give your opinion on this too. You can say I
think
don't
it
know.
depends on if it's a next generation system or just a refresh.
So we're on the same boat.
So like if it's a pro, sure. You can give us
Yeah.
a couple months to be fine. If it's a new generation, it's got to be announced in January or February at the latest.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're of the same opinion.
I always thought May was a weird month for new hardware, regardless of a mid-gen refresh or a next-gen. But, I mean, Nintendo is just unpredictable in general, so I wouldn't put it against them to have new hardware in May. But like as Nate said, it would make sense if it would make more sense if it was a mid-gen refresh than a Switch 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
they
solid point. Yeah, for sure.
They did OLED in October, which was a weird
Yeah.
month too.
Yeah.
So, Nintendo just does whatever the hell they feel like at this
Yeah.
point.
I mean,
When was the 3DS launched? I don't really remember. I think it was like a spring launch.
It was a spring
I
launch.
think.
the DS? Yeah, I do remember it. I think it wasn't earlier.
The 3DS
Release.
launched in.
Well, no. It came out
Japan.
2004. Late
Yeah.
2004, so it came out holiday, I believe.
3DS came
Oh,
out February
3DS.
February in Japan and March in the US. It was 3DS.
Well, we're
Also,
talking
I'm
about
gonna
DS
try
or
to
3DS?
switch back to my desktop and see if it works, because I just restarted my PC.
Oh,
But if not, I'll just switch back to my phone.
okay.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did he say
Oh,
DS or
oh,
3DS?
it works. Fantastic.
3DS.
I think he said 3DS. And 3DS did have an
Oh.
early year.
Yes.
Hello,
Hello. Awesome.
Yeah, we can
So
hear
it
you.
works.
Yeah, we hear you. And it's there you go.
All
Yeah,
Okay.
you guys
I
can hear
think
me?
you're all
Yeah,
good now.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah,
Perfect.
it just needs a restart sometimes.
Good old technology.
Yeah.
Cool. So, the 3DS came out February in the West.
It was February. Interesting.
Let me double
In
check.
the
Yeah.
West. No,
Oh, okay.
February in Japan.
February in
Mar-
Japan.
March in the West.
Yeah, so you're right. So there's a difference of a month there, but it was almost but it came out early 2011. So I mean, it depends, right? And then DS came out November 2004.
Yeah, traditional.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's more
Wii and
traditional.
Wii U were like holiday November, like just like Series X and PS5.
Typically, yeah.
November's a typical launch month. And I guess we could say March with 3DS and Switch, but
Yeah.
it's hard to be like any other time. Who knows? I mean, Nintendo's just gonna. I think a lot of it, as an example, like I think one thing Nintendo proved to themselves, because it is with the Switch, is hey, we can launch hardware whenever if we have a game people want to buy. So I think that's the one thing they sort of proved with the Switch. So it's kind of like, hey, maybe May's a weird month. Also, wouldn't it be crazy while everyone else is coasting and not having really good sales that, hey, we just moved 8 million of a brand new system because we have a game everyone wants to buy with it.
Yeah. Just another random date. Nintendo launched this is the Nintendo 3DS XL. The Nintendo 3DS XL was July 28th, apparently.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I remember a 3DS launch was not very good. I just waited till Ocarina of Time 3D to get mine.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you there.
And the new Nintendo 3DS launched in February of 2015.
Yeah, I remember that also being like early year.
It's so strange because there's different regions with different release dates.
Yeah, the 3DS was one where it was weird everywhere.
It was all over the place.
That was announced not too far before it released too.
Yeah.
The new 3DS at the time.
Oh, the new Nintendo 3DS came out May 1st in 2015. So, in Korea.
In
Korea. Yeah, so I think the moral of the story here is that while November historically has been typically the time for new hardware, especially when you take a look at the last 10 years, Nintendo has been very much a little bit hard to predict in terms of when they come out with new hardware, because Lite came out September, OLED came out October, Switch itself came out March, and now we have Tears of the Kingdom skipping the end of the fiscal year, which is typically when Nintendo will put a big, softer game to come out then, and they don't have a big game. They have Cereza and the Lost Demon.
How dare you diss Bayonetta?
I'm dissing Bayonetta Origins.
It just won an award. Come on.
It gives me Travis Strikes Again vibes.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's already a small, a relative, somewhat niche series having a spin-off. Like, so how well is that gonna do? I'm sure. I'm not saying it's not gonna be a good game. I'm just talking about sales potential. Watch it be like, the best-selling entry in the series.
The best-selling Bayonetta ever.
Yeah, could be. I mean, that's one of the reasons why you experiment sometimes. Sometimes you find another way to be successful. But let's get into the conversation with what we discussed earlier, Nish, quick. So you want to talk? We're gonna focus on Metroid for the most part, but I know you want to talk a little bit about Xenoblade 2 as well. So give me your spiel on Xenoblade.
Yeah, so basically, like, of course, Game Awards happened, like, I think 3 or so weeks ago, and Xenoblade had 3 nominations. Game of the Year, it obviously wasn't gonna get it, with God of War and Elden Ring in there. RPG was, I personally found it weird that Xenoblade, Live Alive, and Pokemon were up against Elden Ring, and Elden Ring was obviously gonna win.
Yeah.
But then Best Score, that was the one where I thought it had a real chance, because Xenoblade has a history of, like, really good music, really good music that tells, like, an actually good story outside of the dialogue. And 3 does that very well with, like, leitmotifs and reoccurring songs, references to the old games. So I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on Xenoblade's loss at the Game Awards with score and music. What do you think about it? And why do you think it lost? Because that was, like, my most confusing one. I was like, Xenoblade is in the bag. And with, like, Mitsuda's legacy as a really good composer doing like Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, the entire Xeno series, including Gears and Saga, I thought it really had a chance. But I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Well,
Nate, you want to go first?
I know what happened. Yeah, I know what happened.
Go.
For starters, Xenoblade did get robbed. It is the only Game of the Year nomination that won 0 awards.
Did Horizon win?
Fun little fact. Yes, Horizon won 2 awards. It was up for 7.
Interesting.
Well, it was up for 7.
So
though.
it is literally the only Game of the Year nominee to actually not win any award. The only award category, in my opinion, that I had a shot to win was Best Score in Music.
Yeah.
The game that won it is fine. It's got really good music, a very different style, very fitting for the type of game it is. But what I think did it in is the same thing that did it in any other category. I think it only had nominations because it's the highest reviewed Switch game exclusively of the year. Outside of that, I don't think any of the people on the panel actually played the game.
Yeah, exactly. It's sad. Yeah, because I don't know. Xenoblade has a barrier of entry.
They would have still been playing it to this very day if they had actually played the game.
Yeah, exactly. I mentioned in my video, I think I said something like they played it enough to nominate it, but I don't know if they played it enough to vote for it to win, if that makes sense.
And
yeah,
these are the kind of things we can't really prove.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just how I feel about it, because like
I feel the same way.
In like the first like maybe 20 hours or so, you will hear good music, but the music will get better and better and better as you continue on in the game.
Dude, the ending music, not to spoil anything, had me in tears.
It's really good.
Had me in tears. Yeah.
I will say I prefer Xenoblade 2 music overall. I think for me Xenoblade 2 is my favorite video game soundtrack of all time. But 3 like comes really close. And yeah, it just knowing that Xenoblade 2 wasn't even nominated, I was expecting Xenoblade 3 to lose, but I was like, I really hope things change this year. But
yeah, well, I mean, we covered Uncharted territory, right? We actually got Xenoblade at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
It was up for Game of the Year and 2 other awards.
For best performance as well.
It didn't.
Harry McIntyre should have gotten nominated.
Harry McIntyre should have gotten.
Yeah. Also, best narrative, because like of course you guys know Xenoblade's narrative is like one of like the biggest.
It had better story than some of the ones. Yeah. But some of the games that were nominated, it dominated that story. But this just goes to my point. I don't think they played the game.
Yeah.
I think they just looked at review scores and said, "Oh, this is the top. This is the second highest rated RPG. Well, it's going to be up for RPG." And you know what? Xenoblade games are always, when I look up Xenoblade, soundtracks keep coming up, so we'll put it up for soundtrack. And hey, it's the highest. We got to have a Nintendo game up for Game of the Year, so this is the highest reviewed one.
You know what I would like to see?
Yeah.
I know Jeff Keighley's a busy person, but given that it's kind of part of his job, I would like to see him post his thoughts on the ending of each game that's up for Game of the Year. I'm not asking for him to play every game in the awards show. I'm only asking for him to play 6 games that come out throughout the course of an entire year to give me his thoughts on those 6 games, just so we know that at least he played them.
Just like a quick review, or like the ending of the game.
If he played them, does it really matter? He doesn't vote.
No, it doesn't matter, but it matters.
Yeah, because he's always tweeting his opinions about the industry and what games are coming out, what games are revealed.
I just think
it'd be nice to hear his thoughts on.
I think it just sets more of a precedent. Games. Like I just think it's.
I don't care at all what he thinks about video games. He's never been a game reviewer. He's never pretended to be a game reviewer.
Sure.
He's a presentation guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So like that's all. I just care what his events do.
Sure.
And that's why he's got all those industry connections.
And at the end of the day, it's all marketing. It's all marketing and politics.
I would rather the criteria for each. I would rather be fully transparent and tell us what each outlet voted for. You don't have to tell us the people, because that's on the outlet. They don't want to reveal who was on their panel when they voted. But it would be cool to know. Oh, this is what IGN submitted. This is what GameSpot submitted, etc. Because then I feel like that just adds that extra layer of transparency. So we sort of know, okay, because we make assumptions. Oh, did they really play Xenoblade? oh well, Xenoblade didn't appear like on any of these lists for any of the other categories that it could have qualified for, and they all voted the same way, meaning they all played the same games. But those are all assumptions because we can't prove it. But we could prove it if we know what all the panels were voting for.
Yeah.
I mean,
There was more
you know.
transparency there. Yeah.
I'm sure IGN really wants that, you know, it out there so all the fans come down on them for not voting for their favorite game.
Yeah.
Ian's history with Xenoblade. That's an interesting one.
Yeah. Something I'll note, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I remember someone posting the amount of music that was in Xenoblade versus the other games. All the other games were like somewhere between like 30 minutes to
2 hours,
2.5
3 hours. Xenoblade is like 12 hours.
Right, exactly. Well, like over 12 hours of music. It's like, so that's obviously, you know, that's just quantity, and quantity doesn't
that's
necessarily
quantity
speak to
over quality, but there is also quality in Xenoblade with day and night themes and multiple leitmotif themes and character themes and cutscene themes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think one of my favorite, like, just enemy themes, like when you fight Mobius and like you see, like, I don't know how to say it, but it's like when they kind of speak in that almost like what was like that chorus, and it sounds like super epic.
It's like an operatic theme.
Yes.
That's what Mobius Battle is.
Thank you.
And what's cool about Mobius Battle is it's a dynamic song. So it changes when they interlink, and then when you're in the interlink, it changes based off of how you're doing in the battle. If you're losing, it'll sound different. If you're winning, it'll sound different. If you're near the end, it'll have more of a triumphant kind of thing. So that's what I love about Xenoblade 3 music in particular. It does that dynamic thing.
It's masterful. Yeah. I think. Yeah, Xenoblade definitely, you know, I think deserves more attention. At the very least, because it was there will be a little bit more eyes on it now. I mean, Xenoblade is having pretty strong sales, so, you know, that's good stuff. But at the end of the day, Game Awards,
the level of Fire Emblem sales, honestly.
It's improving.
Yeah.
That's always good.
Yeah, it's close.
The fan base is growing for it, and that's what you want to see.
That's the most important thing, really. More people just playing a great game. So, for sure. But, you know, moving on, you know, you said you want to talk a little about Metroid, right?
Yeah, Metroid. So I remember you used to make videos last year about, like, the resurgence and the revival of Metroid, in the sense that, like, Dread was last year, and then you made these videos last year, so we were assuming or predicting we'd get the Prime 1 remaster remake this year, and then maybe Prime 4 next year, but I really think that Prime 4 is going to really blow us away. So I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think in terms of scale and scope? Do you think Prime 4 will be like the Breath of the Wild or Legends Arceus of the Metroid Prime series? I bring Legends Arceus because if you look at like Sword and Shield and Legends Arceus, it's a pretty decent evolution in the gameplay, as well as like Skyward Sword versus Breath of the Wild. There's that evolution. And with Prime 4, it need not be open world or like a giant like Elden Ring, like Metroidvania kind of thing. But do you think that we'll have that kind of massive jump in gameplay from Prime 3 to Prime 4? Because I really think that if they want to revive, not necessarily revive, but like really push this franchise to the mainstream, I think like with a high fidelity remaster remake of Prime 1, and with like a really big push in the gameplay of Prime 4, they can really bring Metroid into the mainstream. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah. I'll say that in terms of sales, I feel like Prime 4 has it in the bag to become the best-selling Metroid, unless they completely fail on the execution of the game. But assuming they make the game as they are intending to, I think it's going to be the best-selling Metroid, right? Which, I mean, what does that mean in terms of numbers? I'm going to guess 5 million. I hope it hits 10, because I want it to be as successful as possible. But, I mean, I feel like 5 is not out of the question. You know, if Metroid Dread can hit 3 or get close to 3, I feel like Prime 4 could probably get close to 5.
Yeah.
But, you know, in terms of, like, the gameplay differences, I think I feel like Metroid Prime 4, it's gonna be an amazing game, and I bet it's gonna have like a lot of advanced effects and things, and there are gonna be new mechanics involved. And I think they're probably gonna streamline the gameplay a little bit so it kind of meets more to like the modern standard. But I think like when you look at like the gameplay of 1 through 3 compared to 4, the amount of it's gonna feel pretty comparable in a good way. Because I think Prime gameplay is great as it is already. Versus you look at Sword and Shield, you're like, okay, this game needs changes, right? Skyward Sword, the Zelda team decided that they needed changes for that. I don't think the gameplay for Metroid is what held it back in the day. So I don't think they're gonna completely like, you know, reinvent the wheel when it comes to Metroid Prime. I think they're focused on they're one of the reasons why I think it makes sense for them to do the Prime 1 remaster is they're taking a closer look at what made Metroid Prime work. That is considered the best game in the series, at least the Prime ones, right? So I think they're just looking at how can we make a follow-up with Prime 4 that's worthy of being considered a successor to that. So I'm not expecting dramatically different gameplay. I'm just expecting a modernized version of that gameplay. And I do expect the game to be a little bit longer just because games are bigger now than they used to be.
Yeah, I don't have a whole bunch of like familiarity with like first-person shooter games. Like I played a bit of BioShock. I played Doom Eternal. So I don't think Metroid Prime 4 will have like the speed and the fluidity of Doom Eternal, but having some of like, I don't know, maybe like melee attacks like you see in Dread, or like a melee weapon like you see in Doom Eternal, that would add a lot to the gameplay and combat as well. But I think having more intricate and like wider scale puzzles in like a larger environment would be very cool, because the only like Metroidvania I can think of in like an open world setting right now is Elden Ring. And of course, Prime 4 won't be akin to Elden Ring at all, but just seeing a lot of those Prime 1, 2, 3 puzzles in a little bit of a bigger environment would be very interesting to see.
Yeah, no, I'm there with you. I would love to see. I don't think it's gonna be open world, but I think there's gonna be. And the way I've envisioned it, and we don't know, right? We don't know until they start to show us something. I kind of see. I basically just think it's gonna be just a slightly bigger version. Like we had some open areas in Metroid. They're almost like kind of like they're like these big rooms, right? That had some verticality to them, right? Like a few different levels, and there'd be like what, like 4 or 5 different ways that would branch off. I expect something like that, but there will be some areas that are kind of more spread out. But I also don't think it's going to be like a scenario where we're going to have like this giant field and we're going to need like a mount. You know, I don't think they're going to be that big. That's kind of the difference. Like I don't see like. No, I mean it might be kind of fun if they did kind of like rethink Metroid a little bit and wonder like, oh, what could you do for a mount? And just hypothetically speaking, like this is just me kind of spitballing ideas. So if they did go in that direction where they made it larger and more open, which I doubt that it'll be open world. I don't think it's going to be that big. I think it's going to be more close corridor kind of gameplay. But if they did have like some open areas, what if Samus could like take advantage of the biolife and maybe use those as mounts? Like think about like Super Metroid when Samus saved the animals.
Yeah, and you see them again in Fusion as well.
Yes, like what if like she could ride something like that in the worlds? Yeah. And what's cool about that is that would also imply that, oh, maybe we see more than just actual like aliens that we have to fight in the world, but also there's just like actually like they just work on creating like alien life, and we can see how they interact in an alien world. Like it's just, that's nothing you kill, it's nothing you attack, it's just like, oh, that's like an alien horse, that's like an alien, I don't know what that is, but it's an alien something eating some grass. You know, like that would be kind of cool just to kind of see them focus on like creating like this biodiversity. Would be fun.
Yeah, it's very interesting talking about this game because we basically know absolutely nothing about it. Like I was thinking earlier today, the only things I can really think of that I know about in this game are the color scheme will probably be blue, and Silux will most probably be in the game because of the T's in Prime 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, outside of that, it's very fun to speculate on this game because we know like much less than we know about Tears of the Kingdom. So anything goes with this game.
You know what? It's interesting that you bring that up. I might argue otherwise. I might argue we might know more
less about Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, and I may be wrong on that. Because
we know about the arm, and we know it takes place in the sky.
I'm just looking at Nate. He's like, you're on drugs, Andres. There's no way we know less about Tears of the Kingdom we do.
I'm curious to know why you feel that way.
Yeah, so it's not true. We do know more about Tears of the Kingdom than Prime 4. Like that's a fact.
Compared to other Zeldas, I see where you're coming from.
That in and of itself, because we know that Tears of the Kingdom will follow up to Breath of the Wild, like obviously, like we know it's gonna have that kind of gameplay, right? And then obviously we've seen some footage of it. So yes, we do know more about Tears of the Kingdom than Metro, like we do. But the reason I was just kind of playing around with the idea is because we have gotten a few interviews from Kensuke Tanabe, the Prime producer, and he has given us some tidbits.
Has he really?
Yeah. But they're mostly just about kind of like that relationship between Samus and Sylux, because like Sylux was following Samus at the end of Prime 3, right? But then also at the end of Federation Force, Sylux
see him go into that
steals a Metroid egg.
Facility, yeah.
And what's that about? So personally to me, that's led me to believe that Metroid egg is gonna become the next Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
That's gonna create that narrative reason for there to be a Metroid Prime 4, because with Metroid Prime 3. The threat is eliminated. There is no more Metroid Prime. It's destroyed. But with Prime 4, I think the implication would be, okay, there's a new Metroid Prime. For those
There's a reason they teased it all the way back in Prime 3 with the very end of the game, where you see Sylux's ship.
Yeah. So I'll say this, because I know some people might get a little confused. Metroid Prime is the name of the series, but it's also the name of the final boss. Spoiler. And that final boss is totally eradicated at the end of Prime 3, supposedly.
Mm.
So if there's going to be a Prime 4, if they're still calling it Prime and then it still has meaning beyond it just being a first-person Metroid, then I think narratively they need to have a new Prime Metroid. Then we look at how Sylux stole the Metroid egg. That's what I think. So
yeah, but I still think that your prediction and theory about the revival of the Metroid series after the very long gap from Samus Returns to Dread, I think that still stands. That with Dread and this possible Prime 1 remaster remake and Prime 4, they're gearing up for a lot more Metroids in the future. Hopefully. I can only hope.
I would love to go back to the early 2000s, because we had we had Prime 1, 2, 3. They had the trilogy, which is a remaster of all three together.
Prime Hunters, and then Zero Mission. It was almost an annual release.
Zero Mission. There was Fusion. There's Metroid Prime Pinball, and then there's Metroid Other M, and then they kind of stopped after that.
Yeah.
Other M killed the series, but there was a lot of Metroid.
Yeah. I only really became a serious Metroid fan last year, but I do remember the hype of Prime 3 and stuff. But I never really got into the series until last year, so I'm hoping that resurgence and that revival happens with the Prime series. Yeah. Hopefully, all three of them are playable on Switch.
For sure. So, we're gonna move on. We're gonna part ways here and move on to our predictions for Metroid. But I want to get your own predictions before I let you go. So do you think we're gonna see something Metroid in 2023? Or do we have to wait a little bit longer?
I think we will see the Prime 1 remaster remake, hopefully. We've been wanting this ever since 2018. I remember that's when the rumors started happening, so hopefully something happens next year. They reveal it, release it, and then give us a slight teaser trailer for Prime 4 akin to the E3 2019 Tears of the Kingdom teaser. So I think that is our Metroid stuff for next year. Hopefully it's something.
Yeah,
hopefully at least it's just the Prime 1 remaster remake, if anything.
Yeah, I'm optimistic we see something like that too. So
I will say one more thing though. I don't really think that Tears of the Kingdom would launch with new hardware. I think it would launch with a Tears of the Kingdom OLED.
Sure.
I think that's my prediction, but I think the game to launch with new next gen hardware will probably be Prime 4. I think that's the Breath of the Wild of the Switch 2. It'll be on the Switch 1, which is what we have, and then it'll also be on the Switch 2. Release on the same day with new Switch hardware. That's my prediction, but I say Nintendo's unpredictable. You can't really.
You never really know. I talked about the other day. I think Prime 4 because I think it's gonna be like it's gonna push like the visual front and like graphics and performance and stuff. I see your point with that, and I see it as an option. And it kind of depends on how the pieces kind of fall together. But because of its sales potential, I still am more aligned with Zelda or Mario pushing it, or a Mario Kart, depending on how long we have to wait for this new hardware. But I mean, Metroid I think is definitely something that they'll think about, like depending on how the pieces fall.
It'll definitely be cross-gen, I think, though. It'll definitely release on the Switch we have now and the next Switch. Nate looks like he's disagreeing.
Oh, I've disagreed with a lot. I'm just trying to be nice and keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on the same page with you, Nishquick. I think, you know, that all makes sense. My prediction's a little different, but yeah. I mean, I think you made some really good points.
Nintendo is very unpredictable, so we'll see.
For sure.
We'll see next year.
Yeah, but I'm gonna put out Nishquick's video here in the chat, guys. Check it out. Give him a subscription. Check him out. He talks about Xenoblade there. But, you know, thanks for coming on, Nishquick. I'd love to have you on again in the future.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was fun having you on, buddy.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, later. Have a
to have
happy early new year to all of you guys.
You as well. Take care, buddy.
Yeah, later. See you guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
So,
to clarify to the chat, I don't hate anyone.
except for Brandon. You hate Brandon. You never talk about Brandon.
I barely know Brandon. I barely
Definitely hates me.
What's wrong with you, Nate?
can
Brandon's
feel it
adorable.
in the force.
Nah.
I try to be nice when it's a guest on someone else's show like that. There's some stuff I disagree with, but what am I?
Yeah,
gonna
you can disagree with me. Attack me violently.
There's one point I vehemently disagree with you on. When you mentioned Metroid Prime 4 selling 5 to 10 million, maybe 10, but definitely 5. I'm just sitting there like, do you know that no Metroidvania game has ever done that wasn't multi-platform? Like that's not happening.
All right.
This niche is tiny.
Let's put a pin on that. We'll address it. I just want to say, guys, if you are interested in doing a call-in like that, like Nishquick, that is for YouTube members or Patreon members. So, you know, feel free to join. But yeah, so we actually have someone else coming on Thursday as well. And Thursday, I could have more than one call-in segment. So if you want to get your voice in there, just let me know. Shoot me a message on Discord or Twitter, or even here on YouTube. And yeah, if you're a member, I can get you on there. But let's tackle this point. Let me snap my fingers, stretch out my neck a little bit. All right. Metroid Dread last I checked, has not passed 3 million, but it's really close.
Yeah, it's by the numbers, from the numbers we know, is the best-selling Metroid ever.
Yeah. And let me clarify on what I was saying. I hope Metroid Prime 4 gets to the 10 million mark, but I think a more reasonable sort of goal for it should be 5 million.
I think 5 million is crazy.
So if Dread gets to 3, and do you agree that Prime 4 will beat Dread, though?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
It's very easy logic for you.
Go for it.
It's a game with a number in it. People feel like they got to play the prior ones to play it. And you might go, what? No, new players do not like jumping in on numbered games later in a series. Breath of the Wild works because you don't need to play any prior game to play it. There's no feeling that you need to play any prior game to play it. Prime 4, if they stick with Metroid Prime 4 with 4 in the number like they had in the logo, they stick with it. That's going to hurt sales.
So
you're limiting your audience to only the people who played the prior 3 games.
I got some arguments for you. One, we don't know
Metroid
if they're
Prime
going to
3
keep
like shit.
We don't know if they're going to
that's
keep
not a huge
4 in the title. They could handle it the exact same way they handled Dread. When they had the announcement trailer, they called it Metroid 5, but it was marketed as Metroid Dread.
They also called it Metroid Dread in the same announcement trailer.
Exactly. They did that, but they still let it be known that what it was, but still market as it's just Metroid Dread. They can do the same thing for Metroid Prime 4. We don't know what they're gonna do, but they could do that.
I think they keep Metroid Prime 4 because they've been consistently calling it Metroid Prime 4 in all their documents this whole time. Like, it's an already announced game. It was announced as Metroid Prime 4
but they've also referred to Breath of the Wild as a sequel to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is a huge mouthful. So
You mean Tears of the Kingdom? Not Breath of the Wild.
yeah, I know.
Yes.
But you get my point though. In the documents they referred to it as that
and,
until
and
they
think about it though.
yeah.
Think about it though. They did that because Breath of the Wild was so huge. They wanted everyone to know that this was a follow-up. There was a marketing reason to want people to connect the two games. If your argument is that this is going to be the best-selling Metroid game of all time, which would mean it outsells Metroid Dread, which did not have a number in its title, and people could play it as a standalone game not knowing anything because it's not like it's a heavy story game anyways. I mean, guys, I understand. There is story there. People love Metroid lore. But I can tell you right now, Mike's son beat Metroid Dread and has never played a Metroid before. Like, it's just one of those, when you don't have the number there, you don't feel obligated to have to play prior games. And Metroid Prime 4 has already been announced as Metroid Prime 4, which is why we keep calling it Metroid Prime 4. It's its official title for now. They could change the title, I agree. But if they do that, then I think that it's no longer a Metroid Prime game.
What?
I don't know. I mean,
I
they
don't-
always
go on,
have
Brandon.
subtitles for
No.
after. 'Cause
Sure.
They had echoes.
But like
for
Metroid Prime
2.
3 Corruption,
Yeah.
but it's still
so they
Metroid
could
Prime
just
3.
call it.
but it's still
Yeah,
Metroid
but I mean,
Prime
they
3.
don't have to do that for 4.
But they
Plus,
will.
I don't think that Metroid in general, like the Metroid Prime series, I get that like people will think that because it has a number in it, and I get that. But it is not like you need to play the other ones. And it's not like games don't do this all the time. Or series come out and people get into the latest one and don't play the other ones.
What about Splatoon
I think
3?
there's going to be a subset of both people in the audience, especially depending on how they market it.
Can you name me a numbered franchise besides? I'm gonna add. This sucks. I'm adding a caveat, but it's a caveat because it's a really popular. It's always been popular. I'm setting aside Final Fantasy, which has numbers
Okay.
in it, because
Yeah.
as we've come to discover, each Final Fantasy basically does stand on its own. Like it's, well, Final Fantasy V isn't telling
Right.
a story
Sure.
that's later retold in Final Fantasy
Sure.
VIII and later retold. Like it's not. They're not always necessarily connected in that way. But anyways, that's already a super popular franchise. So I was gonna say, can you find me a niche franchise that uses numbers where the numbered games later in the series sell better than the ones earlier in the series?
Resident Evil?
I mean, it's hard to say because I obviously don't have the numbers.
Yeah,
here.
I haven't
have to
looked
do
up the numbers,
research
but
on that to give you
Yeah.
an answer. But
Yeah, Resident Evil's actually a pretty good one.
it's a good one. I would
'Cause
say Monster
'cause
Hunter
4
before
outsold the prior
Rise.
3.
They stopped
Before
giving
Rise
them
and
numbers,
Worlds,
though.
Monster Hunter was just
Yeah.
numbers as well. And
Yeah.
I don't know how well that series. I can't tell you if the later ones sold better than the early ones or not.
But
though.
also, what about
So I don't
Splatoon
have the
3?
data on that.
Splatoon 3 is doing really well.
Yeah, Splatoon 3.
Yeah, but I also said
People had no
niche.
issues
I don't
with
know that
that.
a franchise that sells over 10 million every time is considered niche anymore.
Well,
It's an online multiplayer
but
shooter. It's a very popular genre.
But I mean,
Very popular genre.
but
Like, the most
Metroid might
popular
be an
genre in the
online
world.
shooter too. I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah, we had Prime Hunters at one time, right? So it's an
so
online
I
shooter
mean,
now.
and Prime 2 was multiplayer. Like, it's not out of the question that they add online
No, it's not.
multiplayer.
It's
I'm
not.
not expecting
Yeah.
it though.
I
but
just don't think they're dropping
No.
the 4. They're gonna keep it.
I don't.
don't know.
Okay, so I mean, to your point though, right? Like, I mean, there's another example actually. Xenoblade. Xenoblade is showing signs of growth, yet that's a numbered series as well. Now you may argue, well,
Very
they did a
minimal
great
growth.
job. They gave us
Pretty
Xenoblade
minimal.
Chronicles Definitive Edition. What? Say that again.
It's pretty minimal growth, though. I mean, we're talking less than 500,000 in sales. It's not like
I mean,
it's
for
like the
the-
best. It's like the best selling, but I mean, look, the numbers we're talking about are 2 million. It's not. It's not like
Yeah.
it's.
But I mean,
You know.
and I get what you're saying, but the point is that it's work. It is growing. The reason Xenoblade does not sell more isn't because of the number. It's because it's a JRPG that's a niche. It's just kind of niche. That's why.
Sure, and Metroidvanias are even more niche than JRPGs.
Yeah, but
True, though,
also.
I'll say
Mm,
I'm just gonna put this out there. Just like 2D games, for the most part, sell worse and are less hyped than
I hate
3D
this hurts
games.
me, by the way.
It's just true. Like, other than Mario,
I don't
2D
like shit
games are
Metroid.
generally
I love
seen as like the worst versions. It's like it's inferior. It's just, you're not gonna sell as much or get as much hype with a 2D game versus a 3D one. And Metroid Dread had insane amounts of marketing, but even then, it still sold the best that Metroid's ever sold, but it sold a little under 3 million. But inherently, I think a 3D Metroid versus a 2D one is going to sell more and bring more hype with the same level of marketing. So for me, the idea that it could not even double the sales of Metroid Dread, and we don't even know what Metroid Dread will hit eventually in this lifetime.
Yeah,
It's not crazy to me to sell another 2 million over that with what I assume is going to be a much more popular game.
I think that's crazy. I think you guys are acting so crazy. I looked up every single the highest selling Metroidvania games of all time. Literally the highest selling on any single platform right now is Metroid Dread. There is no other Metroidvania that has sold more than that on a single platform. Now, there are games that have sold more, but they're multi-platform games. Like Hollow Knight, as an example, has sold more. But Hollow Knight is also on 1 billion platforms and much cheaper to buy. So, like, it's baffling. Like, don't get me wrong. I love Metroid. For anyone who wants to question, like, say, I'm just shitting on Metroid because I hate Metroid, MetroidWiki.org. Go there. Go look up the About section. I founded that entire wiki. I love Metroid. I think it's absolutely one of the most underrated franchises of all time because it should be way more popular than it actually is. But reality bites me in the butt every time we talk about Metroid. The sales never do what people think they should do.
Sure. Which is why
people
I'm not
thought
predicting
Metroid
10
Dread was
million.
a shoe-in for 3 million a year, and I understand it probably has sold 3 million. It probably has. But its numbers aren't so staggering that Nintendo's even bothering to update them anymore.
All right. So you said that no Metroidvania has exceeded those kind of numbers
on a single platform. On a single platform.
Oh, well.
That's the caveat, because it's only coming. That's the thing. If we're talking Metroid Prime's going to release on PlayStation and Xbox, absolutely it's crushing 6 mil. But this is not what we're talking about. It's one platform.
Would it surprise you if I told you that BioShock Infinite, which is in the same genre as Metroid Prime, by the way, it's more similar to... It's BioShock. The BioShock series is a better comparison to the Metroid Prime series than any Metroidvania is. That's a side scroller. Like, that's a fact. Because we're taught yes, that they're Metroid. Metroid Prime's like its own genre already because it's actually a first-person adventure. So I don't know if comparing its sales to, say, like Hollow Knight and Ori is really a good way to gauge its sales. It's a different beast. By the way, BioShock Infinite has sold 11 million copies worldwide. Yes, multi-platform.
BioShock Infinite is not in the same genre. It's just not.
Yes, it is.
It's an action RPG, and that is not what Metroid Prime is.
You want to throw in it's a first all right, so it has
action. No, it's important because action RPG is not a niche genre. It's one of the most popular genres in gaming. Literally one of the most popular genres.
But Metroid Prime is a first-person shooter.
That's just a gameplay style. That's not like a genre. Like on the whole, you want to go. What's Metroid Prime? Does the first person thing come to mind? Oh, it's a first person shooter. When people think FPS, they think Call of Duty. They think multiplayer shooters, which I understand. That's technically not what first person shooter means, but you know that nobody describes Metroid, even Prime, as a first person shooter.
Yeah. I think that there's not really enough data.
Because then we're going to compare Doom. You might as well bring up every first person shooter in the world then.
Yeah,
that's not going to compare favorably for it.
BioShock, people in the chat seem to agree. BioShock is considered a comp to Metroid. It does have RPG elements, but a lot of games have RPG elements nowadays. And who's to say Metroid Prime won't have RPG elements too? Like that might be one way they modernize the game. The RPG elements isn't like what sells the game though. BioShock is an atmospheric. It has action. It's a first-person game where you explore, and it has atmosphere.
Its official genre is a first-person shooter, survival horror, action role-playing game.
Yeah, and everything in that description is exactly how you would describe Metroid, except for RPG.
Metroid Prime is described as a first-person action-adventure platforming game.
And the Metroid series is also known for having horror elements.
I don't know that I would agree with that.
It's 100% true.
I'd never considered Metroid a horror game.
Did you play Metroid Dread?
Yes, I beat Metroid Dread. It's
Right.
not a horror.
The
game. You're just
Emmy-
running,
okay.
You're running from an Emmy. It's not. That's not
It has
horror.
horror elements.
What do you
Yes,
mean?
it is.
It's like legitimately like most horror games that you see on
No,
Steam.
on other horror games, I die. You don't even die when you get captured by an Emmy.
What do you mean?
It's
When
not-
you
it's not
die,
even that
they literally
It's
stab you in the
not really.
face.
Yeah, and
It
then you
says
come
game
in,
over.
That's not horror to me. There's nothing scary about it. I'm not scared of an Emmy. If it captures me, oh no, I just have to rerun through the
Okay.
same section.
You may
it's
feel
not
that
scary
way.
to me.
I mean,
But-
that is kind of how most horror games are nowadays too.
Yeah, most modern horror games, I guess, are kind of.
Emmys are scary.
Horror. Like horror scares me. I'm not scared of an Emmy. It doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't scare me. It's a
It may not
robot.
scare you, but Emmy does scare people. Okay, it is.
Cool.
It's basically like the mechanic that we have in the Resident Evil games now, where there's something constantly chasing you. It is scary. It gives you a sense of dread, suspense. Not to mention, the original Metroid was inspired by Alien, a horror movie. So
Hold on.
you know.
Hold on. I'm gonna see if they list Metroid Dread as a horror game.
Oh no, I don't
Okay.
think it will. be
Okay, it
listed.
is. Nope. I'll give you.
Oh, is it
It's-
really?
It's a Metroidvania shooter game, and its last category is survival horror.
Okay.
So Metroid Dread specifically is considered a survival horror game. Yes.
So all right. Anyways,
I was just
like
gonna
we
say-
can
There
we
you
can go
Your
back
point
and
is
forth.
proven. Of course, Metroid Prime hasn't been that, but that's.
I
entirely
played
different.
Metroid Prime, and it was scary.
I know you. You were scared.
But anyways, I mean, we can go back and forth, right? We don't know
It's
how
not-
well the game's gonna do until it comes out.
How
but
confident are you it's going to sell 5 million or more?
I think it can get to 5 million. Like,
How
I think in
confident?
its
Like I feel like
lifetime, it
we
might-
got to put a bet down.
all right, but like, what's the
I don't know what the bet is. I was gonna say shave my head, but Yulia won't let me do that. So
How about we just have a discussion where we come out loud and say I was wrong?
that's lame.
All right, fine. Okay, ice
It's
bucket.
gotta be something that actually like you don't really want to lose.
All right, okay. How about this? One of us has to do the ice bucket thing, where we have to take our shirt off on camera and dump ice on ourselves with water.
Oh, the ice bucket challenge, the old school ice bucket.
that's
challenge.
uncomfortable.
That is uncomfortable, but that's not. You're not gonna die or anything. It's just.
No, we're not gonna
Also
die.
depends on
It's
what
just
time of
awkward.
year you do it.
Well,
And I really don't want to take my shirt off. You know what? Let's do it.
all right. If anything, you can wear a wife beater. You know, if you don't want to take
Yeah,
all
yeah.
entirely, but
Do we have? I'm not gonna be like RGT and be like, oh yeah, it has to have a cutoff date. No, it doesn't have a cutoff date. Let's say, I mean, when do we?
are we even
determine?
gonna
'Cause, like,
remember this? Because like this time may not happen.
Do you know that like half my fans are in your chat right now? They are going to hold this against me. Every sales report that comes out. So it will be brought up
All right,
because they probably all think I'm gonna be wrong.
all right. So
Wait, we have to clarify this though a little bit on this bet, like, because this is a weird game because we don't know if it's coming on in Switch, the next Switch, or what. Are we talking like cumulative sales across all platforms? Are we talking?
I
just
don't
a
see
single
why
platform?
not. I don't see why not.
I think it would have to be every platform.
I
Okay.
mean, if it's
I don't
coming
think
out,
it would be that much of a difference.
Oh, but that's a big distinction because let's say it comes out on Switch next year, but then the following year, new system comes out and they release a 4K version, so people who already bought it buy it again.
sure, and then they could get some double dips. But I mean, good for them.
Yeah, good for
I
them.
doubt that. That's
Anyways,
how they
okay,
handle
so just
next-gen versions
cumulative.
anyways.
So are we gonna put like okay, it releases X year? How many years of sales date are we going for? Because it's gonna. I'm assuming we're talking lifetime to date sales, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, the
Yeah,
thing is,
it's
it's
the
gonna
tricky
sell
part.
forever, so it's hard to say, right?
You think
Like,
it's gonna sell forever?
I would give it a calendar year, like from the time it releases to the next, like its first anniversary.
I don't know if he's gonna stick by 5 million a year. That's a lot.
I wasn't gonna do a year. I was gonna do 3 years.
Okay.
Okay,
You,
3.
you guys are really going for the long haul on this one.
That's okay. No, this
You
bet
know
will
what?
never
You know what I think is more fair. All right, let's do 2 years. Because how long has it been since Dread has come out? It came out
It's been a little over a year.
a little over a year. Okay. I don't think it's gonna get. I don't think it's gonna double its numbers in another year. I think it's clear that it's kind of. It might slowly sell a little bit, and when they start hyping up the Metroid for Metroid Prime 1 and 4, they may get more sales. But Dread's probably not gonna get to 5 million. Probably not. If we do, I think 2 years is fair. After
Okay.
2 years, you know, assuming
2 years hit 5 mil. Okay.
Prime 4 after 2 years has to hit 5 million.
Yeah.
And everyone watching, we're leaving it to you to remind us when this happens 3 years from now. Yes, I'm predicting that Prime 4 comes out holiday.
Even my fiance is in the chat saying I'm gonna be wrong. This is the bad bet.
Oh gosh.
Even my own fiance is not backing me up on this one. That's how bad a bet this is. Well, let's go for it. Okay. Hey, at least I'm buying myself a couple years. Even after it crosses 5 mil. Say it crosses 5 mil in the first year. I'm just gonna look at you. We haven't hit year 2 yet. I don't have to do it yet. No. If it crosses 5 mil before 2 years, it's still within 2. So yeah, I'll still do it. Whatever. You know what? I'm gonna win, so it doesn't really matter. I'm pretty confident. That no Metroid game is ever crossing 5 mil.
It's funny.
In my lifetime.
What I need to do. I've had this idea to create like a dedicated website where I list off all my current predictions. I haven't made the website yet, but maybe at some point this upcoming year, it's one of the projects.
You might not like it. Here's all my predictions. Oh crap, I got these all wrong.
But no, but I like the idea because it keeps me in check, and I mean my channel is largely about speculation and predictions, right? It makes it fun. But occasionally I've done bets too, right? Like there's that one time I was wrong about Breath of the Wild 2. We call it Breath of the Wild 2 at the time's like release date, and what did I have to do? I had to eat Dupia's cake. So I think at some point put a website on it, and I'm gonna start like keeping tabs on all of our bets and gambles. It's like, when you get this wrong, because you're probably gonna get this wrong, you will have to do this.
Yeah, I'm still trying to. Okay, so like me, Mike Odyssey, and Eric have a bet on our podcast still for the launch week Bayonetta sales, and we're having a really hard time figuring out what the actual sales were at launch because they didn't really tell us. And I've been trying to figure it out, like because it leads to a hot chip challenge thing. We had a betting special where Eric's getting a trophy this week. Oh, my bets go through. There's no backing down. So it's okay. You know what? It can't be worse than when ice went down my pants this summer during my own show. So
yeah, but I also hold myself to that standard too. When I do a bet, I hold myself to it. When I was wrong about Zelda, it was a whole video. Just search Andres Restart Dubious Cake or Dubious Cake Breath of the Wild. You'll see it. You'll see it.
Remember that?
Yeah, I did it. It was not easy, but I did it. So this will happen.
At least we didn't bet on what year it's coming out. We just bet on
No, yeah, that's a whole other bet. But on that note, let's make some Metroid predictions. Let's get back to the predictions part of this discussion. So I am predicting we see something Metroid this year. I'm going to say we do get the Metroid Prime 1 remaster, and they also tease Prime 4. Basically what Nishquick said.
I feel like such a downer.
Yeah, what are you predicting for this year?
Bro.
Yeah, at some point you're going to have to...
I don't think we're seeing Metroid.
Apart.
I don't think it's happening. Here's the thing. Here's my thing. I'm not ripping them apart because this is all unknown.
Yeah, we just have a difference of opinion.
We didn't get Metroid Prime 1 this year because they're not ready to show Metroid Prime 4, and I don't feel like they think they can release Metroid Prime 1 without showing 4.
I agree.
Which tells me, okay, so that's just an assumption. I don't know, but that's what I think. So if they're not ready to even show it now, then they ain't gonna be ready to show it next year either. We ain't getting Metroid Prime 1 next year either. Metroid Prime 4 is fully, at this point, if they're not even ready to show it, is already being twisted and turned into a next-gen title.
I disagree.
They're not even going to release it on this Switch, and because of that, we're not getting Metroid Prime 1 Remaster till the next system. So I don't even think we're seeing
I see what you're saying. If Prime 4 is that far off, I totally agree.
And I don't know, by the way, I have no evidence that Prime 4 is that far off, other than we just still haven't seen even a hint. An art update on Twitter, on a profile, like that's our big news.
That's huge news.
That's our big news.
That's several
huge.
Discussions on it.
That's the ESRB rating of Zelda, except ESRB means the game's actually coming.
Gigaton. The Gigaton. Haven't used that one yet.
Leak. It's the Giga Leak.
Yeah.
The Giga Leak.
So, by the way, Nate and I argue all the time, but we love it. We love to argue. This is fun for us, right? Like, there's a smile on my face.
And these are all subjective opinion. We can't prove one way or another. Something's going to happen or something's not going to happen. That's whatever. We agreed on Mario. Hey, there we go.
Yeah, we agree. We opened up the predictions with an agreement. I would think that was solid. So, I do want to kind of address the logic, though, for Metroid, right? Like, why you think it's not around the corner. So, I think Nintendo being quiet on it. Yeah, I mean, I think they're quiet on it until they're close. I agree with that. But like, I think the reason why Prime 1 did not come out as Jeff Grubb had told us it would is because Prime 4 is just not ready yet. But I think if Prime 1 had come out this Christmas or this holiday, as we were told it was supposed to, then I would have assumed Prime 4 was coming out 2023. But for those who have followed me, you probably have noticed that I've changed my thinking on that. I no longer think Prime 4 is coming out next year. I'm predicting it for a holiday 2024 release, which at this point is almost 2 years away. Okay, so it's not like I don't think I'm like being overly optimistic about this. This game, they announced its restart back at the beginning of 2019. You could argue it started beforehand, but even if you assume it started back at the beginning of 2019, coming out the end of 2024 is more than a 4.5 year development time. Like that's a reasonable amount of time. So, you know, like, I mean, again, you could argue it's been 5 years. So it's not really like overly optimistic. I think it's just reasonable. So anyways, and it could be wrong, you know, we don't know. But
not considering the pandemic in there at all.
Honestly, most developers can make a game in 3 years. So like, there's a lot of flexibility.
Retro hasn't been able to make a game since 2014, so it's just throwing that out there.
Sure.
So we're approaching a decade.
Yeah.
They clearly are having a hard time getting a game.
We also know they've been hiring a lot of high quality talent.
Sure. And a lot of those hires happened in the last like year, which would indicate they're still like really deep into development.
I mean, they've been hiring for the last 3 years. We've been talking about news of their hirings for the last 3 years. So
why are they hiring so many people in the last 3 years if it's been in development for almost 4
different things they're working on? So
really,
yeah.
What else are they working on?
Listen, dude, I'm talking about 2 years from now. Okay, Majora's Mask is made in a year, so you know, whatever. Anyways,
that's a Zelda team. They're reliable. Sure.
Retro Studios was a good developer. They've never made a bad game. Well, I think they're gonna come back, and it's gonna be great. But
by the way, I'm just giving you crap.
Yeah, we don't. The thing is, it's not like you can't just assume it's never gonna happen. Like, I don't think.
I didn't say never. I think next generation, and I don't think they launch with it, which means I'm thinking 2025 or later at this point. I think, by the way, I have no evidence for this other than covering their hirings over the year. Some of the key positions they hired for just last year made me feel like they rebooted the game again. So I just think this is like in development hell at this point. Because I wonder if there's gonna. I pray this never happens, but I wonder if there's a point where Nintendo says enough, we're done spending money on this because you guys just aren't.
I'll say this: we did technically get an update on Metroid Prime 4 last year. When they announced Dread, they said development was going well. You could say they lied.
Or what are they going to tell you? Development's going like shit?
Well, they could just not say anything.
Yeah, you can't not say anything when you already announced the prior Metroid game before this one. If it's a little awkward,
right, listen.
They gotta kind of address
Nate,
it.
Without evidence, you can assume that it's in development hell. That development's
Retro
going
hasn't
poorly,
been able to get a game out since 2014.
That's getting perpetually delayed. You can continue to assume all these things. I'm just going to assume that, they told us development's going well. I don't have any reason to think they're lying, so I'm not going to assume they're lying. They might be, but I don't know that, so I'm not going to assume they are.
Here's a counter to that. They also showed me this thing called the Wii Vitality sensor. Showed it working on stage. Said will be available soon. Still waiting.
That's a completely different thing.
Oh, you mean it's a thing that actually existed that they showed and advertised to the public?
There are only two franchises Nintendo has bothered to put out update videos for when there's a major delay. It's for the Legend of Zelda series, and it's for Metroid. They're treating Metroid with care. They don't put that kind of statement out there if they're treating this like a willy-nilly nothing. This is not a willy-nilly nothing. This is something that they are taking seriously.
There would be an announcement
video
if they canceled the project. I don't think it's canceled now. I think it has the potential that it could get canceled in the future. And they will announce that they are shifting away from Prime and they're going to try something else.
That's not it. There's too much pessimism here with nothing to really back it up. So I'm gonna not do that.
Hey, I honestly think we're gonna get another side-scrolling Metroid before we see a 3D one out. So
they got a team, Mercury Steam, and by the way, I'm glad you brought them up because Mercury Steam, if you look at their history of games, they are not nearly as high quality as Dread. But why is Dread higher quality than those other games? Because Nintendo worked in tandem with them.
Sure, absolutely.
I think the same can be said
wasn't
for...
the director one of the Metroid people, I believe, on that game?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yoshi.
Yeah.
I forgot his full name, but yeah.
Yeah, I forgot his full name too. Yeah. But, the guy you want to work on it.
But I'm glad you brought him up as well, because you want to know who's also working on Metroid Prime 4? A very, very prominent and successful developer from Nintendo, Kensuke Tanabe. He's produced a lot of high-quality games. One that came out not too long ago, Paper Mario: The Origami King. So he is heading the Metroid Prime 4 project. We have seen them hire, for the last few years, high-profile developers from high-profile games consistently.
You know what dev studio made his last game?
What, Paper Mario?
Yeah.
Wasn't that an EPD group?
Paper Mario.
Is it Intelligent Systems?
Origami. I'm asking because one thing that's a key difference in all of this is, and this is just stuff I've learned from Digino Gaming over the years, by the way, is that Retro Studios has a very hard time communicating with anyone from Japan. Like the communication barrier apparently is really horrid. So having a Japanese person leading doesn't necessarily provide me confidence when the developers are all English and don't speak Japanese. So they tend to have a problem with that in the past. This is what Digino Gaming has put out there. So it's one of those that I'm not really like. If the developer of Paper Mario was a Japanese developer,
Intelligent Systems made Origami King, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's what I thought too.
But that's also not a developer in Japan, and at the head, Kensuke Tanabe. So, there isn't a history of Kensuke Tanabe doing bad with.
You're wrong. Intelligent Systems headquarters is in Kyoto with Nintendo.
Okay, so. You're right. I was thinking.
I just googled it. I was like, I'm pretty sure.
No, you're totally right. I'm glad you double checked, because I was confusing them with Next Level. No, I mixed them up with Next Level Games.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got them mixed
the
up
Luigi's
with.
Mansion people. Yeah.
Which was also a really good game, the best Luigi's Mansion game in the series from a critical acclaim perspective and sales perspective.
One of the best looking games on Switch. Period.
Yeah. So I mean, while it is, you're right about the Intelligent Systems thing being from Kyoto. Next Level Games is a good example of a high quality game coming out of a developer that's outside of Japan.
Who was the director?
I do not know. I have to check.
Bryce Holiday works for Next Level Games. I'm pointing this out because there's a language barrier that Digino Gaming pointed out has been a consistent problem with retro games.
All right. I hear what you're saying there, but basically your argument is that it's going to be in development hell forever. That's your argument, because the thing is, once the game is done, if you look at the history of Retro Studios releases, every single one has been Game of the Year caliber from a critical acclaim perspective.
Yes. Well, I don't know that I would sell the Donkey Kong games or Game of the Year caliber.
Well, look at the ratings; they're high.
Sure.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's going to be a game. All I'm saying is that they're all very well received games. That's all. The only point I'm making with that.
Sure, I can give you that. Yeah.
They've never made a bad game. They've never made a just good game. They always make great games, from a critical acclaim perspective.
I'm not gonna blast you. They've actually made some bad games, because no one talks about them. But that's
okay. What are they?
We're not gonna get.
What are they?
It's in the past. It's in the past.
I am googling Retro Studios.
Yeah, I know. I'm like. I remember looking this up for a different video, and I was surprised at some of the other games they made that no one talks about.
There's Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. That's a win. Donkey Kong Country Returns. That's a win. Mario Kart 7. Good game. They helped with that. It was a good game. Prime Trilogy, obviously a good game. Prime 3, good game. Prime 2, good game. Metroid Prime, good game. Or is there something else that's not listed? Because those are all the ones that they've made. And they're all really good games.
Yeah, hold on. It might be hold on.
I mean, if you want to go back to before they were considered Retro Studios, when they were Iguana Entertainment, that was a different team.
Well, yeah. Well, some of that team was there when they became
Yeah,
Retro Studios.
right. And then they made Metroid Prime.
They
which
were
is
the
incredible.
foundation of Retro Studios. Yeah.
And they made good games before.
All right, fine. I'll just give you your point for now because I think the game I was thinking of got canceled, so it never technically released.
Well, that's the point. They never came out. If the game comes out, it's because it's good. So
what if? But what if? I kind of look at it. I kind of look at it like this. I think Metroid Prime 4 is coming out at some point. Okay. I don't think it's actually ever going to get canceled. I don't know if Retro Studios will be the one to finish it, but I think it will come out. My lack of faith in Retro Studios is like for all these prior games we talk about, almost none of those developers are still here. Almost the entire team has changed since 2014. Almost everyone, like when you actually look at the employee list on Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze and go check Retro Studios, there's like one person left. Almost the entire team is gone, which means the Retro Studios we have today isn't the same as then. And if my prime argument for that would be simply look at how often games were coming out in the past from Retro Studios, and now it's been almost a decade. We're getting to the point where this is not the Retro Studios we used to know, because Retro Studios didn't take a decade
it's an entirely new studio with all the talent they have now.
Yeah.
By the way, Mike Odyssey sent me thank you for the super chat, buddy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but Mike Odyssey was just saying that Retro Studios is still currently hiring.
Yeah.
And they are still hiring. They're still trying to get people to join by using Metroid Prime 4. It's like, hey, you could work on the Metroid Prime 4 project. So
yeah, they use that to advertise the hiring before. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Mike. Yeah, I knew about that. Well, that was also like a further point in my. If they're using that game to hire people, well, then how far along is that game if they're trying to hire them?
I don't think hirings are a really good way to tell how far into development a game is, because
I think they were still hiring for Xenoblade and Zelda recently too.
And
they hired for like Monolith hires all the time.
So it's a little okay. The reason why I bring up the Retro Studio hirings compared to those is because when Monolith Soft and like the Zelda team hire for Zelda, they're not hiring just for one game. They're being brought on for years, because the Japanese studios, they don't do like these temporary contract employees. You're just a new full-time employee at the company, and you're just working on whatever project they have you working on at the time. Because that's how Nintendo Japan operates. Here, Retro Studios is very much traditional Western. You have a set. Here's your contract. You work on this game for X amount of time. Contract's done. You're done. Unless we want to bring you back and offer you to resign, you decide to come back.
Nate, I'm doing another poll. I didn't want to do this to you, but we're doing another poll. By the way,
dude, the audience is gonna vote your way every time.
You're right.
This could be my show, and they would still vote your way every time.
Oh my god.
Well, then what am I gonna do?
There's
anyways,
nothing you can do. I'm just wrong. I'm gonna shut up.
You're not wrong until history is gonna prove who's right or wrong on this. But let's just do another poll for fun, right? Anyways, to end this poll, because it's been about an hour, at 98 votes, is Donkey Kong Switch happening within the next 2 years? It actually went more in your favor over time, so it aged a little bit in your favor. 78% yes, but you're
not good.
But your 17 went up to a 22. 22% think that Donkey Kong Switch will not happen in the next 2 years. This is all for fun. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, everything's for fun, guys. I do think Metroid Prime 4 is going to come out. I don't think it's coming out next year, but I do think it's going to come out.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's going to come out next year either. So.
Well, I mean, none of us do. None of us think it's coming out next year.
I know. I also just don't think Metroid Prime 1's coming out next year either. I'm starting to wonder if Metroid Prime 1 is vaporware at this point. Like it never existed, and it was one of those fake leaks.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Because remember, Metroid Prime Trilogy HD was the original rumor and existed since 2017. So like this is a really old rumor.
I think Metroid Prime Trilogy was just something people wanted to happen because it made sense.
So okay, Brandon, I hear you. I'll listen. So the originating source of the Metroid Prime HD rumor is the same person who said Trilogy, and they said this is the same thing. They just meant HD. But they said true. So basically, they changed their own rumor. Granted, this is Emily Rogers we're talking about, who's been really reliable. But also, it's kind of like but it's technically all the same rumor because it comes from the same person who said it's the same rumor.
Fair enough.
So it's actually a really old rumor.
I did you dirty with the poll. I just said.
I even said I'm even voting yes because I think it's coming eventually.
Yeah.
I don't think at this point like they have to release something.
Yeah. So
so
all right. All I'm
We
gonna
need a
say,
new poll.
we're gonna
It
move.
just says, do you think Nate is wrong? Yes or no? Just
who do
not
you,
even a
who's
specific
more
point.
handsome, Andre or Nate? I lose that poll too.
Yeah.
It's
That's
all
all
over.
perspective. So I think we should move on from Metroid, but I do want to like steer a little bit away from just like arguing the game's existence or lack thereof.
You mean a pointless argument?
Yeah. But I'll
Sorry about that,
I'll
guys.
say this. That was fun, so it was fine. But I'll say this. There's a lot of people who say that there's something Prime 1 trilogy related coming. But those people, many will argue, have lost credibility. I mean, Jeff Grubb, who has said things in the past and have been right about it. They've talked about Pikmin 3 Deluxe, they've talked about 3D All-Stars. Those materialized. But Prime HD has not. But something that I think needs to be said here is that, well, personally, my years kind of following this stuff more diligently, I've always found that the reputable leakers, I'm not talking about Mark O'Mara or Samus Hunt, we're talking about like the Emily Rogers, the Nate the Hates, the Jeff Grubbs of the world. What I found is they're never wrong about the games happening. They're more wrong about the timing. They're consistently wrong about the timing, but not wrong about their actual existence. And let's talk about some examples. These people have talked about Fire Emblem for a long time. Engage is coming. It was announced in September, coming out January. Very short reveal to release window. We can go further back. I mean, I just brought 3D All-Stars and Pikmin 3 Deluxe. These were talked about, those were debated for a whole year, and they came out. Well, not the whole year, but throughout the year of 2020. And they came out, even when there was no directs. I mean, another game that wasn't even like rumor. Well, I mean, it probably was rumored, but this is literally, it was rumored because Eiji Newell himself told us about its existence during a random concert, and then afterwards Nintendo put out a PR statement saying that it wasn't true. But he told us that the series producer for Zelda told us that Skyward Sword HD. He talked about it at a concert, then backtracked on those statements, and then 3 years later it came out. So
I don't know that Skyward Sword HD actually existed at the time. I think that was him putting pressure on Nintendo to make it exist.
Maybe, but I think, and the thing is though, regardless, what it says is that there were discussions going on, and that's where rumors can come from, and they just take time to materialize. So
explain the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD.
Yeah. Because there's a whole bunch of sources on that one, and they've all been wrong.
People are really mad at Jeff Grubb over that one more than Metroid.
Yeah,
he's not even the original source of Metroid. But he is like one of the originating sources of that.
Well, wasn't it his co-host, Mike Minotti? They had put out a show where they were so confident. We all got uber hyped, and there was a direct, and it had some stuff, but it did not have the one thing we got uber hyped for. So that was a bummer.
Mike said he had his own independent source from Jeff. By the way, Jeff, who also said it was coming last year.
Yeah.
I think he said he's never talking about those games.
So, so the point I'm simply making here is that I think with these rumors, it's just from the credible ones, because that can get confusing because there's a lot of bogus stuff out there, and we do talk about them sometimes, but that's why we talk about them to see if to try and analyze if they're legit or not. But
you know what's surprising?
Just let me finish my point and I'll let you go.
Sure.
I just want to say that sometimes it's just a waiting game, and it's just going to take a while. Most of the things we've talked about consistently on this channel, they have materialized. Sometimes we talk about things and they don't materialize, but if we talk about it consistently for a long time, the timing may be off, but eventually it happens. And there's a lot of them.
Bro.
Pikmin 4, Pikmin 3 Deluxe, 3D All-Stars, Skyward Sword HD, Fire Emblem. Those are just some examples. Anyways, to your point.
Oh. Well, one, I was going to mention that people, that we actually have had it calm down a little bit on like the fake rumors. A lot of those people aren't talking anymore, strangely.
Silex Hunter killed him.
Basically.
Yeah.
Basically killed him.
But he's a source for another rumor that I think would be a great segue to the next.
Oh, he is. The other thing I wanted to mention, oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. So go ahead, go with your segue.
I'm sorry, it's my fault. I kept interrupting you.
No, I was trying to interrupt you because like that's the way we both our minds work. We have a thought.
I just gotta go.
Get it out before we lose it, and then it's gone.
Yeah. Well, if you get it, just interject.
Sure.
So I'm just gonna do it now because I already kind of like alluded to it. So I'm predicting a game to come out next year, and that is F-Zero. And I even heard from you at one point. I don't know if you changed your mind on it, but I remember you put out a video, a few months ago, right? That you heard that there is a GX remaster happening, and this is after Silex Hunter, who's gotten some things right, flawless record, doesn't say a lot, clearly isn't marketing his Twitter. People complain about him barely talking. People are like, oh, you should talk more. He doesn't talk because he's trying to market anything. At least the narrative that's built is that he just talks when he's fed up with bullshit. And that's what he does. But he alluded to an F-Zero. And then there's been a few other venues that have corroborated information. If I remember correctly, I think Game Explain, they mentioned it. I've seen Direct Feed Games, which I think is just another alias for Nate the Hate. He's alluded to it as well. And then, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, you've even had your own video where you've heard something, supposedly.
Yep.
And I believe all that. And I mean, I've actually speculated that F-Zero's in the works for a while, just because I think at some point they got to do it. And I do think that Smash Brothers has been used to tease these things. Could just be a coincidence, but, you know, Captain Falcon was used a fair bit throughout the entire Smash hype cycle. But anyways, yeah, I think it's happening. I'm expecting it to be a summer release, but that's just what I think. What do you think, Nate?
Well, I mean, the information I got still hasn't changed, so it's still happening. Next year, it'll be interesting because beyond F-Zero, Emily Rogers mentioned that Nintendo has like this plan of a lot of GameCube remasters. It's like her final rumor because she supposedly retired, and to her credit, has said nothing since then, since this one. So I'm just throwing this out. This is the last thing I'm saying, and I don't want to deal with this crap anymore because she's been leaking a long time, and I'm sure she's dealt with a lot of bullshit. Yeah. But the whole GameCube remaster, like that Switch is Nintendo's plan now, because they're done with Wii U stuff, is trickling out GameCube remasters sort of for the end of the Switch's life cycle. How long that is. It also suggested to me the Switch's life cycle is not ending next year, which, okay, then maybe it'll be more like a Pro than a 2. I don't know. Or how it's all about labeling. Like, what are they going to label? I have no idea. Whatever it's going to be, I don't think it's really going to change. But the label might keep it in the same family. I have no idea. But that would make sense then. That lines up with what I heard about F-Zero. You could argue that could even line up with Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. I know people don't want to.
Let's call it the GameCube Remaster Initiative.
Sure, there we go. And then you can start thinking of a whole bunch of other GameCube games that could get remastered and come.
Yeah.
F-Zero is the one that's been talked about the most. But there's other ones out there.
Well, Metroid Prime 1 HD. There's another.
Metroid Prime 1 HD.
Technically, 2 and 3 are still rumored. So, there's those.
So, I do think an F-Zero next year could also. I think people in general always thought F-Zero made sense after Mario Kart 8 Deluxe started blowing up. It's like, okay, well, we're clearly not getting a new Mario Kart this generation. I mean, we got Home Circuit, but like a new mainline,
a core-centric,
mega seller,
a core-centric racer from Nintendo.
Yeah. So I'm like, it kind of makes sense to maybe bring back F-Zero. And so I don't know, like if they want to bring it back with a remaster just to see what happens, sure, why not? Like I kind of think it would make sense to come out next year. So you know what? I'm gonna say I agree. We will see F-Zero next year. By the way, not because I have any additional information. Just sure, I heard about it, and we probably only have a couple years left of Switch, and supposedly getting more GameCube remasters. So why not? Why not next year?
Yeah, Brandon, I realize I've kind of haven't given you a chance to talk.
That's fine.
How do you feel about F-Zero?
I mean, I haven't really played a lot of F-Zero, so I guess I don't really have a lot of like passion for it to come out next year. So I'm gonna say no, because it's never gonna ever come out. It's gonna be like Mother 3. It's just never happening. No, F-Zero's dead.
Is there a way to like remove you from
just
the
crush
call?
your hopes and dreams?
I think I can remove you from the
just
call.
Gonna have to crush all your hopes and dreams real quick.
Remove from group. Okay. No, I'm just kidding.
Just unfriends me.
Yeah.
Just no longer the co-host of the podcast anymore.
Just go. I'm just gonna get another, like, I'll use my phone as a second camera, and it's gonna be Charmander. Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. I mean, okay, fine. It's
I mean, there hasn't been a new F-Zero in forever, so it's not like a bad.
Yeah.
It's also one of those things where, like,
It's
you
kind
know,
of safe.
Nintendo,
It's very safe.
Nintendo hasn't sold the franchise, so like because they haven't sold the franchise, inevitably there's always a chance, right? Like, so, you know.
I'm curious to
There's
see
a lot
how
of
many
dead
people
Nintendo
have
franchises.
played. I'm curious to see how many people have played the F-Zero games on the online service. I wonder if Nintendo even looks at that or cares about that.
I'm sure they do.
It'd be a weird
You
thing
know,
to like go.
I'm actually glad
full
you
ham
brought
on,
that
like,
up.
those results, but I imagine it'd be at least interesting data.
I'm glad you brought that up because there was a tweet Nintendo put out recently because they made mention of the Mario Kart DLC and all that stuff, and it's doing well. And they're like, hey, there are other quality racers on Nintendo's online expansion. Check out F-Zero X and Wave Race 64. Like, they did do that on their social media, trying to point people towards other racers. And I wish Nintendo, instead of having a GameCube remaster initiative, would just have a Nintendo Racer initiative where they came out with a Nintendo Racer every year, because they have like 7 and they could just cycle through them every year. Like, we could have an annual Nintendo Racer and they would all be fresh because they have enough of them to where we wouldn't be like, oh my god, they just came out with, like, it's always different. There's the Excite series, which you could argue are different series because it's Excite Bytes, there's Excite Bots, Truck, and Bike. So, you know, but that's its own series. There's Wave Race, obviously. There's F-Zero. There's obviously Mario Kart, but there's also Diddy Kong Racing. Pilot Wings isn't a racer, but, you know, I think you could put into that conversation. And then there's a 1080 series, right? Like, that's also not technically a racer either, but it's kind of like, I don't know. I just kind of put them on in that category there. Like, I mean, even if you don't include those, there's 5 racers that they could kind of loop through, and that would be fine. No one would complain if they did that. So, like, is Nintendo just going to do Mario Kart forever? They're really not going to branch out?
Right.
I mean, we see Nintendo branching out. They do branch out. We are supposed to get an Advance Wars remaster. It was delayed.
We already know that that's real.
It's real, yeah. But will it come out?
Someone actually played it because Nintendo made a oopsie.
So actually, I think that's a fun one to address. Do we think Advance Wars is coming out this year? I agree.
They has to.
I actually think it has a strong chance of coming out in the first half of the year too.
You know, I think there's 2 ways to do it. They shadow drop it, or because apparently now, supposedly they want to talk peace. I have no idea if that's actually going to happen with the real world events out there, but that's a supposed thing that's coming up in the news. So maybe that if that comes to an end, then they might actually wait so they can market it again, or feel like they could safely market it again and just do a summer drop. But I think it's coming next year regardless. I don't think they're just gonna all the work on it and they're just gonna eat it.
So
yeah,
I personally
Throw it in
don't
the
like
bin.
the idea of shadow dropping, just because this is not the kind of game that's gonna do well if you don't market it.
I don't know if it's gonna do well anyways, but
true. I feel like if you're a fan of
all
this
relevant.
series,
This is even more
this
niche than
game, you
Metroid.
probably are just following it anyways.
yeah.
Like my friend Pedro loves this game. He's definitely gonna get
Who
it.
knows?
They don't
Maybe
need to
this
market
is a
it. He's
surprise
gonna know
hit.
when
Maybe
it
this is
releases.
gonna outsell Metroid Dread, and we're just like don't even know. We don't even know what's happening.
It's a strategy game.
Yeah, which are very niche. I would know because it's like my favorite genre.
Yeah. So that's not gonna happen. But maybe it sells like 500,000 copies or 1 million. I think 1 million's like, if it can hit 1 million, that's a huge win. So,
I'm
you
actually
know,
curious.
yeah.
Am I imagining these numbers? Hold on.
Well, they have the
no,
Nintendo Power
no.
podcast, Devin Lyons.
Okay.
So there's that.
Yeah. The best, like the entire franchise in total has only sold 390,000. You know?
Oh my gosh.
So it's like
Yeah,
super
wow.
niche. So I
So
don't
if
know
it
if there's
hits,
anything they can.
so if it even
I don't-
sells 500,000, that's a huge win.
That'd be a red. I mean, 100,000
Yeah.
would probably be really good.
Yeah.
So
I
like,
definitely
it's
don't see
super
anything
niche.
in
I don't know that
yeah.
Nintendo's. That's why I said it could just be shadow drop because the work's already done and they just
Well,
move on with their day.
I mean, I feel like it could. I don't know. I feel like
Or
Nintendo
Advance Wars.
could use it to fill up a month. That's just kind of like
A
maybe
game
April.
that sells less than 500,000, I don't think is a month filler.
Hey,
It's just like
a few
a game that
100,000
happens to come out
copies
in that month.
can make a difference. You know, it's
Well,
figured it out.
that's the franchise. That's all the games in the franchise.
Yeah,
combined.
but this Switch, I don't think it's gonna do that bad. I just don't see it.
I think it will probably be the best-selling game in this series when it does release, if they even market it a little bit.
I lost a subscriber because I called Metroid niche. I'm
Oof,
sorry.
oof.
The best-selling game is 2.9.
Sorry for saying facts.
Like it's
bad.
actually niche. So what do you want me to
What
tell
do you
you?
define as niche?
Mainstream is like, I don't know. At least you got to be at least a consistent 5 million seller, in my opinion.
And that's the potential of Metroid Prime 4, pushing the Metroid series beyond the niche category. Because
I think
it
Metroid can go beyond niche.
Yeah.
I think it needs to have a Breath of the Wild moment game, and I don't think it's Prime. I think it's a brand new Metroid going in a completely new direction.
Well,
But
I
that
have
doesn't exist,
a lot
by
of
the way.
anticipation for Prime,
Right.
so you know. But let's I think now we move on to something
Uh-oh.
something a little bit more advanced, and that's a terrible pun for
Then
Advance
Advance
Wars.
Wars?
Yeah. So
I see what you did there.
yeah. Now, unless there's any other predictions you guys want to kind of touch, I mean, there's more to talk about, but
Huh.
let's just jump into the hardware stuff. Let's do it now.
It's okay. I got to talk with you again on Wednesday, so I got to save something. for
That's
the
right.
ball.
We're doing another podcast on Wednesday. So yeah. We still have a lot to talk about, so I'm trying to speed things up.
I'll be brief. I promise.
We got to talk about the Switch hardware, and we got to talk about Zelda, and then whatever's left over. So
2 favorite things.
yeah, the two big ones
Right.
for the end, basically. So I mean, do we have to have a topic on Pikmin 4? Do we all agree it's coming out?
Yeah, it's coming. I don't
It's-
see why not.
Some people think it might get delayed.
Yeah, I understand the delay thing because when they revealed it, they didn't really even reveal gameplay or anything.
Yeah.
It's supposedly coming out in less than a year. It felt like a really ambitious, like, yeah, this is coming out next year. We're working hard on it now.
Yeah, you know what it kind of reminds me of? Well, this is a freaking amazing segue. It reminds me of how they're kind of marketing Tears of the Kingdom. Game's supposed to come out in May, but we've known basically nothing about it. They're being oddly quiet about it, even though it's
I
just
disagree,
only so
but-
far away. Still, don't ruin my segue.
I'm sorry, that first Tears of the Kingdom trailer is way more than we ever saw on Pikmin 4.
Well,
The point is, there's a few games that are coming out next year that we know very little about.
Sure.
And people are kind of scratching their heads what's going on. Now, I'm not saying that this 100% means that this is what's going to happen, but it's leading to that conversation. That conversation is, could it be that Nintendo is holding back information on some games because the idea is that these games are going to take advantage of new hardware, and this new hardware is coming out in 2023? Is it a Switch 2? Is it a mid-gen refresh? That's the conversation we're having now. Maybe it's nothing. That's a fine prediction too. By the way, Nate, if it makes you feel any better, Unknown Player was kidding. He did not unsubscribe.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
By the way,
But
guys,
you
I,
should've.
I lose subscribers every day. It's
Yeah.
not a big deal.
we will do a little
Q and
Q&A after we're done with these topics. But I'm trying to get through the topics, and if it's too late for you guys, you can step off. I understand. But
No, I'm good.
yeah, so I could tell you what my prediction is, but I already made a video on it. So I want to hear what you guys think. Do you think there's some type of new hardware next year that is an actual revision? Not just like a Zelda OLED, which I think there's a great chance of, by the way, but like an actual, like, you know, more powerful system. Or maybe not even more powerful, just a different type of Switch. Like, do you think there's something coming next year?
You go first, Brandon.
Oh, I go first. I
Do
guess
it.
I'll be short because people kind of already know what I think. I was kind
I
of
don't
more
know.
curious to what you want.
I'm curious what you want. I don't know what you want.
All right, I'll tell you what I want. What I really, really want. That is, I mean, I think that's pretty good amount of, like, a pretty good likelihood of this happening. I think there's definitely bias there because I really want it to happen. but I think there's like a lot of things suggesting that a Switch is around the corner. I know we've known about that NVIDIA leak, which has proven over and over and over again just be completely true. And that has shown off like hardware, which, and if you know anything about console hardware, you know that like when the Switch came out, they were already starting to work on the Switch 2. That's just how it is. They might not have known it was the Switch 2 or what they were gonna do, but you always start like super early.
The R&D is
So
constant.
to like, yes, and they've seemingly have either finalized a chipset for it or are already have working a specific like custom chipset working for this unit, and that was over a year ago that they had this, and it does take a while to make this, but considering the specs and considering the age of hardware as well as like what Nintendo targeted for the Switch and everything, it just makes sense for it to come out pretty soon. Otherwise, I feel like it's getting to the point where it's like, why would you even have used that hardware if it's going to be like 3 or 4 more years to another Switch? Is really, it's going to be like even more outdated than the Switch was when it launched, which I don't think they're going to do. I think it's going to be fairly on the cutting edge side. I don't think it's going to be like the best thing on the market at the time it launches, but I think it's going to be pretty good. I don't know. I think there's a lot of signs pointing to it. I think we're finally getting over like the chip shortages. We're seeing PS5s and Xbox Series X's in stores. You can actually go in and walk into like Walmart and buy them now. It's not everywhere, but it's actually a thing some places. I think the world and everything is just, everything is coming together that makes sense either 2023 or 2024. I don't see them waiting longer than 2024. Especially because, as I said, like the chipset that I've been working on for years would be like outdated by the time that if they wait so long. I don't see why they would do that.
Okay.
I mean,
I wanted to bring up some unique points that I haven't brought up before.
Ooh,
Sure.
unique points. Okay. All right.
Well, no, those were like
Those
definitely
were
I haven't talked about. Yeah, those were the unique points.
Oh.
I was going for a different angle than I usually go for, so you guys feel free to destroy that if I say something you think.
No.
I did look up an article the other day, and I didn't do extensive research, so I'm not sure. But I looked up an article, and I honestly I only read the headline. But it just kind of, I need to do more research. This is so that I don't take what I'm saying with
context.
Right.
It was just a point I was thinking about making in the video, but I was like, you know what? I don't have enough evidence on this, so I don't want to speak on it. It was that simple. So, and basically, I haven't seen enough information suggesting that like the semiconductor shortage is like really like lessening significantly. And I may have just not seen enough information on it. I haven't done hard research on it recently. So that's really it. I just haven't seen a lot of substantial information supporting that.
Yeah, on that point, there's been a number of analysts that have pointed out that heading into 2023, the chip shortage is not gone, but significantly lessened. And they said if you want to just see real world evidence of this, you can go online right now and buy a 4080 anywhere. You can buy all the new AMD GPUs anywhere. They're everywhere. You can walk into stores
those are
in
graphics
the West
cards.
Anyways. Yeah, those are graphics cards, so that we're dealing with the shortages before.
Cryptocurrency kind of died, and mining died, and that helped a ton.
Yep. Basically, what they're saying is, and this was true of the entire shortage the whole time, was the chip shortage was caused because there was an abnormal increase in purchasing of electronics, which is now in a massive decline because half of the world is sitting in a recession and ain't looking to buy $2,000 phones anymore and $1,600 GPUs, and like people just don't got the money anymore. We're in recovery now, and as we enter recovery, the demand has gone down, and with the demand going down, ergo, it just sort of fixed itself like every analyst said it would eventually. The market was never going to stay at the way it was in 2020 and 2021. It was never going to stay there. But that's kind of the market sort of just correcting itself. So all these new factories, it's funny because one article I read, like all these new factories are opening just when we don't need them anymore. But what's nice about having those factories open is it does mean they're prepared for pretty much anything. And it also could mean potentially that we start getting even cheaper devices because now there'll be more competition because now we have all these assembly lines that'll be available. So there'll be more competition for parts. And so it's interesting.
That is a big part. So just to interject really quick, that is a big issue with PC, or not just PCs, but just like graphics in general right now. It's like the parts to make them aren't actually getting cheaper. So you're having to put like more parts, more different transistors and things, but the prices for those individual transistors aren't actually going down, which is part of why we're seeing freaking $1,600 GPUs. So if there are more like people manufacturing these parts and that drives down prices, that would actually help the industry as a whole.
Yeah. So, basically, it makes more sense to launch new hardware in 2023 than it made sense for PS5 and Xbox Series to come out in 2020, like manufacturing wise. That doesn't necessarily mean there won't be shortages and it won't be sold out. Every new electronic when it comes out is always sold. Guys, the Wii U is sold out.
Yeah.
Right.
At launch.
So I just want to make sure I understand.
That it's going to sell out. Whatever it is going to sell out. That's just what it does. There's always early adopters that buy out everything. Plus scalpers trying to make a quick turnaround buck for people who don't want to wait.
But the basic verdict is that because like I said, the reason I brought up that I have only done light research and haven't seen a lot of evidence because I wanted you guys to kind of expand on it. Is that so? There is still a semiconductor shortage issue. It is an existing issue that there's still efforts working to improve, but we are seeing signs of improvement.
Yeah, basically, it's already getting better.
Okay,
like it's looking a lot better.
Yeah,
than it used to.
And something a point I want to just kind of point out though is that PS5 still was a thing. Sony still moved on to their next generation. Microsoft still moved on to their next generation.
Now there's PS5 Pro rumors for next year too.
Yeah, so
that's not happening.
Well, regardless if it's happening or not,
that's when they released PS4 Pro.
They're still pushing and selling hardware.
True, but there was also like a reason for the PS4 Pro. There's like literally no reason for a PS5 Pro, and also, as I said before, like the cost of everything is so high. Both PlayStation, I think Xbox said they're losing $150 per Xbox Series X or something insane.
No wonder if that's the reason.
So like, I don't think
profitable PS5.
Maybe it's just the PS5 Slim.
A Slim I could see.
$800 PS5 Pro, but it's actually profitable.
Maybe. It would have to be like like $800, $1,000.
There'll be people that would buy it.
A worthwhile
obviously.
increase. True, I just don't think it would reach mass market appeal.
I still haven't gotten a PS5 yet.
I agree.
So.
I agree with that. An $800 PS5 would not be.
Are there any common complaints with the PS5 from a hardware perspective? Like, is there some sort of like thing that they're sort of not really being able to
I think
it's
most
not
people
as good
don't
as
know what
PC at ray tracing, but I guess that's pretty much it.
People don't really have complaints yet because they're still waiting for them to actually just make the games exclusively for PS5.
We haven't seen anything from like Unreal Engine 5 or like big ray tracing focused titles. We've seen some, but it's like so minimal. Like we've mostly just seen cross-gen stuff. And I feel like it's going to be the same thing with like the early PS4 and Xbox One generation where everyone is like, these consoles are like barely any more powerful. And then, like, towards the end of the generation, games look completely different. Like, early PS4 titles versus PS4 titles launching now, generation apart. Like, it doesn't even come close.
Yeah.
So,
it's interesting.
So then, Brandon, what do you think is happening?
Clarify the main topic we were talking about, because I feel like we went down 3 different rabbit
holes. What is
holes
your prediction for hardware next year?
I predict it is coming later in the year.
It is coming. So, and what is it?
A next generation Switch. I feel like they're going to do cross-gen very much like the current cross-gen period now. Like most games are going to come out. I guess it's mostly like third-party games that are going to be exclusive for the most part for the first few years. But it's going to be marketed as a next generation console like the PS5 and Series X.
Okay. When does it come out?
Holiday 2023.
Alongside 3D Mario?
Probably.
Okay.
I think Pikmin 4 is also going to launch on it as a cross-gen title. I think that game looks absolutely insane.
Yeah, I can see
from
that
the
being
little
like
bit
a
we've
looker
seen.
game.
I took it the 5 seconds of
Yeah.
footage we do had recently, and it does look pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Like it looks
A
way
look- a
better than
looker
other Switch
game.
games.
Yeah,
Looks way
as a
better.
looker game, because Pikmin's always been a very pretty game when it comes to visuals.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is something to show off the hardware.
Yeah, I feel like the existence of Pikmin 4 does kind of, I personally kind of feel that it does slightly strengthen the argument for new hardware. They could come out without new hardware, but I do think it, like, by 1% it increases my hope of new hardware for next year. But okay, so I feel like I have a good read on what your prediction is. Is there anything else you want to add?
Not really.
Okay.
Not
Well,
as far as the console goes.
all right. Well, Nate, what do you think?
we're getting an Xbox Series S Pro next year.
Holy! Are you saying that Nintendo games are going to be on the Series S Pro? Oh, I'm going to jump
Better
out my
together.
seat.
That's the new Better Together update.
I'm going to jump out my seat. You know what's something that occurs to me, right? 'Cause right now, my channel is relatively small, right? It's all relative, right? It's definitely bigger than a lot of people, and I'm very happy for that. But, there's definitely room for growth. 'Cause I'm trying to make this my job, so I got a lot of room for growth. But so a fear that I have is that the bigger I get, the more likely someone is going to take like a screen cap of some nonsense I said and then just be like, "You said this," and I'll be like, "Yeah, I said that, but I didn't. I was mistaken." Like
It happens.
I am also a human.
like
The
I
internet
jumble
never
my words
forgets.
sometimes too. Like sometimes I think one thing and I say another, but I'm still thinking the right thing. I just made a mistake
Right.
with my words. It happens like
Yeah, I do that all the
several
time.
times per show, just for the record. And I'm glad you
The
got.
internet
I know
never
that's why I like when you guys point out when I make an error. It's like that way I can clarify because I don't want to spread misinformation, right? Like for example, when we were debating earlier, and I was like, "Oh yeah, intelligence systems is in the West." No, it's not. Because like I swapped in my brain, I swapped it between next level games. So I'm glad that you like corrected me immediately.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that you enjoy being corrected. What was weird is last week I did a podcast with Game Over Jesse and Pierre Schneider from IGN, and that cast is supposed to come out at some point on his channel or whatever. And there was a point where we were briefly towards the end talking about Tears of the Kingdom,
I need
and
to watch
both
that.
of them were like, "Oh yeah, isn't that like a?" Or Pierre brought up, "Yeah, didn't they say like spring 2023?" I'm like, "It's May 12th, 2023. It's when it's coming out." He's like, "I don't think they gave a release date." I'm like, "Look, Pierre, I don't mean to correct you, but it was at the end of the last trailer. It's May 12th, 2023." And then Game Over Jesse, who literally his whole channel is nothing but Zelda, was like, "Nate, I don't think they gave a date." I'm like, "Guys, it's at the
Bro.
end of the last trailer. It's May 12th, 2023."
How this was recorded last
I'd
week.
feel so gaslit.
Yeah,
at that
yeah.
point.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, they're acting like I'm the idiot, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna let this go. But this is like a pretty big important fact. Like one of the few things we know about this game is the exact release date. And here I am talking to the head of IGN and the head of a channel bigger than mine that does nothing but Zelda, and I'm correcting. And I'm just like, I don't think they want to be corrected, and I'm just gonna back off on this point because that's the date. It's May 12th. Like it's not even. I'm not even debating you. It's a fact. It's on Nintendo's official website. It says May 12th right on the web. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm glad when people appreciate being corrected because I know I could be stubborn sometimes. But like if someone said, like if you say something to me, I'll be like, all right, let me just Google. Oh yeah, you're right. Like just end it there. Like it's a quick Google search and you're done. Like
Yeah. I mean, if
But-
we're doing a show in front of our computers, why aren't we going to Google things and fact check?
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I know that I'm really stubborn when people try to correct me, but I do actually appreciate when it is done. People in the comments like they even say like, "Oh, here's Nate, he's being all smug," and no, like thanks for correcting me. Like I want to get things right. Sometimes I get things wrong. It's okay.
I love the adjective smug. And when I say love, I just mean it's the kind of adjective people use when they are interpreting how you feel and think and have no idea. You know what I mean? Like people might say, "Oh, you're looking smug," and I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm actually like really insecure right now." You know, and it's people don't know. You know, it's just people like to make interpretations. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But philosophy aside, hardware.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think?
So this is like a heart and mind thing. Like my heart is saying yes, 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 yes. Launch a signed Zelda. Makes sense. Big seller.
Yeah.
Zelda's always Zelda.
Right.
Even Zelda that didn't sell like because Breath of the Wild is like a misnomer. Like, oh, you use Breath of the Wild reference. The only Zelda game to even sell over 10 million, let alone 30. Okay, you're right. You're right. It is a bit of an outlier. But what's not an outlier is Twilight Princess. Only sold 8 million. Sure as hell helped with that Wii launch, didn't it? Think it yeah, Wii Sports was a thing, but it was that double whammy. Hardcore, casual. Really helped keep Wii sold out for quite a bit there. Beyond all of that, when did sales get boosted for the failing 3DS at the time? Oh, when Ocarina of Time 3D dropped in July, and all of a sudden it saw a big sales bump. It's almost as if Zelda over time has consistently proven it moves units. So now that you know, like, yeah, maybe the Zelda game's only going to sell 4 or 5 million, but it might sell 4 or 5 million consoles alongside it. So it's one of those situations where Zelda has sort of proven that it's a system seller for Nintendo. So it would almost be a misuse of a major release to not have something new come out alongside it. Now, that being said, that's my heart saying, yes, let's get new hardware.
Well, that sounded like your logic for a second, but all right.
It's logic. It's logic. Here's the thing. It's hard for me to say things that don't have some sort of logic attached. Even when I talk about that Metroid stuff, I had some logical reasons to think that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that all logical reasons support that, because there's a lot of logic that doesn't.
Sure.
So that's how my brain works, but my heart also works a little bit off of logic as well, because I want there to be new hardware. I've been talking about this new hardware forever. I think it's only, by the way, if new hardware comes next year with Zelda, I think it's only going to be, it's going to be in the same family of systems that we have now. I don't think they're even going to consider it a replacement. I think they will stop making the $300 Switch and lower the price of Switch OLED to that. I think that is something that's going to happen. Light, I don't really know what they're going to do with that yet. I have no idea. They'll probably keep that around until they make a light version of whatever this is. But
Switch Lite doesn't even sell that much.
No, I think they just like having the price range differences.
Yeah.
There's a crowd for it. I think I've noticed that a lot of kids seem to have Switch Lites. I think that's sort of.
It's definitely a good kid Switch, and I mean people who don't play that many games. But I'll also say I've met a lot of people who have Switch Lites. They kind of regret getting Switch Lites. Not because there's anything you can't dock it. That's just that why.
2 of them and was like, oh, why didn't I just buy one Switch normal?
Yeah. But it's going to continue to exist. I think it sells enough that Nintendo keeps it around, which is fine.
You know what'd be cool? What they could do, and it wouldn't be like a major thing, but I think at some point they should release like a Switch Lite dock.
I think.
Yeah.
So I have an opinion that this new system, even though it's just an upgrade, but it's in the same family, I think it will have a new dock. And I'm curious, even though you'll be able to use it with the old dock, like at least the old OLED dock that has the ability to output in 4K at least.
Yeah.
But I think the new dock might be sleeker or a different design, to the point that when they come out with a Switch Lite of whatever this thing is, it won't come with a dock. But if you have one, you can just use.
And they sell the dock separately, so you can get it if you have a Lite.
Yeah. Like, I don't know why. I understand why they do with the current Lite, because the docks obviously aren't compatible. But if they redesign the new one to be like, hey, it's not about, you could put anything on it. We don't have like a sandwich thing, like forcing you into a certain specific type of use case. But that's a different theory that I obviously can't prove that Nintendo's even thinking about. But
it's just something that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Or like a sleeker one. Maybe it's like a hockey puck that you just drop it. I don't know. Whatever.
And the thing that's weird though is that there's no like real reason why Switch Lite can't do it, right? Like, is there a functionality that's lacking?
It does not. It is missing one of the chips. It needs to do it, but it's a chip that costs like 3 cents. It's like a 3-cent chip. They just didn't put it on there.
So, would they be able to create a dock? They would still be able to dock it, or does it?
Not with the old Switch Lite, probably not. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say it's impossible, but there's no video out signal that comes out of the USB-C port at all. So I don't really know how you overcome that without hardware modification. Yeah. Which, by the way, there are people that mod their Switch Lites to do that, but
but that requires modification, right? Which is it's just a very niche activity.
Just buy a normal Switch. Right, Switch and call it a day. Yeah. This is not the 3DS days where you needed a modded one to get a video signal out. This is not. Anyways. Anyway, but that's what my heart wants. But my head keeps telling me, and this is a stupid thing my head's telling me, But it keeps referencing things like, okay, we were just in the middle. Which, by the way, it's weird because I just said this is the same family of systems, so this wouldn't be a new generation. So you figure this would all line up. But my head goes, Nintendo likes to milk their systems. They usually milk them until nobody wants them anymore. They're still releasing all these big. We got Fire Emblem Engage, we got Pikmin 4 and Zelda, all confirmed next year. 2 of them with release dates early, hitting the Switch early in the year. They just hit it hard this year with 12 exclusive drops and a bunch of them being really big games. Some of them being really big sellers. 3 of them in particular, Splatoon 3 and both Pokemon games, being massive mega sellers. Sort of telling me that Nintendo might just rest a little bit and decide, hey, whatever that chip was that we were working with NVIDIA, we never mass produced that chip. We just had it in existence. That might not be what we go with. Or, and this is another logic thing, like when Brandon was bringing up the whole chip thing, oh, they don't want to use stuff that's too old. Actually, Nintendo likes using old technology because it makes their systems cheaper. All they care is that it's a bump for them. They don't really care what the third parties want. They care what they want. And if
Though
it's a
they
bump
did,
for them.
I think there is some.
Yeah, they taught it to Capcom. You can bring up the Capcom thing with the RAM.
I was exactly, yes, you know exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
It is a good point though. They do care about third parties somewhat, and I think with third parties, like for the early part of Switch at least, like third parties coming was big, and there were a lot more like big third parties. I also think Nintendo, like the biggest shortcoming of Nintendo is their third party support. And it's not like third parties aren't willing to work with them or they don't have the money. It's literally just like, we don't have time to port to your extremely low powered hardware. Or I don't feel like making a game that is that compromised, like a version of our game. We don't want it to be that compromised. If there was a Switch that was, say, within spitting distance of like the Steam Deck or something, then it would be a lot easier for them to ubiquitously just be on the Switch. Like, imagine if Nintendo has the first parties that they have, but with the third parties that are even remotely comparable to, because they've never, like the last couple generations, then it's not even close. Like, since PlayStation, Xbox have come in, they've never gone the third parties back like those two systems have. So if they were to have both their first party and third party, I think it would just be like absolutely insane how well they would do.
Yeah, but it would have to be something that's gonna eventually sell, right? Like if it's Switch 2, you know, then it needs to be something they can eventually get to like the numbers of Switch, you know, because like say that they release a mid-gen refresh, and it only ends up getting like what, maybe 20 million systems sold. Like that's not going to be like, oh my god, third party's going to just all of a sudden be on the Switch. Like there's still going to be the 120 something million users that can't play those improved third party games. Like, so, you know, like that's
long.
There's a lot of wiggle room here as to how Nintendo goes about things.
Because Nintendo at one point said 10 years, and it's like, well,
so how do you do that?
A mid-gen refresh could get you to 10 years if that's your primary platform, the next 4.
Yeah.
You know.
So the way I've interpreted the 10-year plan is that, yeah, sure, it'll be on the market for 10 years, but it's not going to be the only platform on the market for 10 years. And I don't know why people, I whenever I make a video about this, I always see people bring this up like it's supposed to be for 10 years. Sure, but they're, look at the 3DS.
Was that even what Nintendo said? Because I know they have a contract with NVIDIA for 10 years, but I thought that they had said they want to keep the Switch on like 7 or 8.
They never said 10 specifically. What they did say is we want this to be like a longer than normal generation or something.
And
I remember
hearing
like
which
7
meant
or
like
8 years.
Which meant over 7 years. And so you go 7, over 7's at least 8. You go to NVIDIA contract that's 10.
Metro.co.uk. Nintendo plans to support Switch for 7 to 10 years.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Knew it was north of 7. So here's the thing, like if they release a what basically is a next gen Switch, but they don't call it that. It's just it's just the same family. It's a Switch Plus. It's a new Nintendo Switch. But it is significantly more powerful, and people don't really understand that the 3DS actually, compared to the new 3DS, compared to the old 3DS, it nearly doubled what the old 3DS could do, but
It was
it was
kind of
such
like a Wii to GameCube.
but like, yeah, it was. It's really hard to explain back then because both were still really low powered devices. Like, but it was technically a pretty
That
significant
CPU
boost.
though, the loading times and the download speeds,
No.
so
Yeah.
much better.
Yeah, like it was a significant boost that people appreciated in some ways. Like I would argue Miiverse was not usable on the old 3DS at all. The new 3DS is usable.
Actually, being
and
able to go back in the home menu when you're playing Smash,
Yeah.
crazy.
And like Hyrule Warriors Legends actually ran better than Hyrule Warriors on
Actually,
Wii U.
I
Why?
remember-
frame rate.
Why?
I
Why?
remember
Why
playing
is this thing
Pokemon
running
Sun
it better
and
than Wii U?
Moon
This makes no sense.
on the new 3DS, and like, so if you play Pokemon Sun and Moon on the base 3DS, it's like it's so choppy. But you play Sun and Moon on the new 3DS, it flows smoothly. Like the frame rate is so dramatically different on each system.
Yeah. So I think that they could do something that's basically a next gen Switch, but they're just not going to call it that.
Yeah.
Because Switch is still hot. It's still a hot ticket item. People still know what it is. It's still really popular. The games are selling like gangbusters. It's still selling nearly 20 million units.
Isn't OLED
It's
the
a hot-
best-selling
it's a hot
unit of the
marketing
Switch
term.
family?
Hmm?
Isn't
Say
OLED the
again?
best-selling unit of the Switch family?
Switch OLED, yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Well,
currently.
it's been since it came out.
Yeah, since it came out. Yeah, not total. But,
Yeah,
you know.
not overall, but
It's
since it came out,
currently has the fastest pace.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's it's the newest one.
It's a
newest
really
one in the
good
family.
sign, though.
And so they could drop this; it would instantly become the bestseller of the family of the
Yeah.
tree, and it would be the bestseller for say the next 2, 3, 4 years. And if it basically is a next generation, but they never call it that, and obviously what slowly happens over time is they slowly start to get rid of the older systems as they come up with a light version of this one. Okay, the old light's gone.
Sure.
They come out with I don't know, some sort of minor improvement of this one. Okay, now we're done with the Switch OLED. That thing's gone. It's kind of the phone upgrade path
Right.
where they do actually signify it's new, and people sort of understand that, but they also understand, but your old one's fine. Like you have an iPhone 13, you don't need an iPhone 14. You might wait till the 15, you might wait till the 16.
Yeah.
But they all have the same features, they all have the same stuff.
It's a great way to transition without upsetting fans. And
Because
keep
it's like an unnoticeable
think-
transition.
Right. I think it would obviously be a much more aggressive, I don't think like right now you can use like an iPhone, I think 7 or 8, and you'll still
Sure.
get all the new updates. I
Yeah.
doubt you'll be able to use like the original Switch when say the Switch 3 comes out.
No.
I
They'll-
think it will
no,
be
like,
there will be
within one generation.
So
Yeah.
I think we're kind of on the same page because I don't know if you saw my video, but I'm in a similar boat. I feel, and this is pure speculation. It just kind of, but I guess it just sort of seems like it's what feels like makes sense because I think part of the debate with Switch 2 or what have you is that right now we're looking at a environment that's entirely unique to Nintendo. We've never seen Nintendo be in quite this position before, so it's actually really hard to predict what they're going to do. Because history is not really going to be a good indicator because they haven't been quite in this situation before. They haven't been approaching we're going to see the 6th anniversary March 2023, right? We're about to complete 6 years of Switch, and the system is still selling incredibly well. By this point, the system would be pretty much dead. Like the Wii, which is a comparable system to in terms of sales, was dead by this point.
They released a new one by the time it got to the 6th anniversary.
Yeah.
Wii U came out in 2012.
Right.
So, yeah.
The year beforehand, they came out with the Zelda we waited way too many years for, and that underperformed. Which is kind of another sort of like, I think, our argument as to why maybe they do take advantage of Tears of the Kingdom, because you look at Skyward Sword, we waited years for that game to come out on Wii, and then the year later they came out with a new system. Imagine listen, they waited so long, and they really wanted to be like the thing that proved motion controls, which is I think was ultimately its demise. Like, imagine had they just delayed it a year, and it launched with Wii U. The Wii U would have been a different beast. Like you made it in HD, right? Like it would have been different. So I just wonder, like, Nintendo looks at what happened with Skyward Sword, and you look at what happened with Twilight Princess, and you look at what happened with Breath of the Wild. What do? It's taken them 6 years to make Tears of the Kingdom.
Mid-gen refresh, and the Switch isn't ending.
Yeah.
Going another 4 years.
So, and I'm glad you said mid-gen refresh, because in my video, what I talk about is I think the whole idea of like generations is going to start to blur. as we're already seeing with the other competition, right? Like they're still making PS4 and Xbox One games, which is crazy, right? But Nintendo is doing so well in sales right now. I think a big part of them wants to make it. They want to stick to a long, maybe 10-year plan for Switch, and they want Switch to become the best-selling system of all time. And it's becoming, every year it's becoming more and more feasible. But I think the way they truly clinch it, the way they truly guarantee that it becomes the best-selling system of all time, is if they pull a Game Boy Color. So if you take a look at sales numbers, Game Boy and Game Boy Color are a part of the same family. Even though Game Boy Color,
According to Nintendo.
Right.
Yeah.
Game Boy Color had exclusive games. And it improved. The other cool thing about it is it improved current existing games that came out beforehand, which is really interesting. And it's kind of like one of the promises of like a Switch Pro that were rumored for years, right? That Switch games would have better performance and dynamic resolutions are going to improve, and if they patch them, even better. So Nintendo could do a Game Boy Color situation, come out with a Switch Plus. Let's go back to the theorized name we had 2 years ago, right? Switch Plus. They don't call it Switch 2 per se, and it has the power, as we've seen from the NVIDIA leaks. It is kind of comparable to a next generational leap, but it plays all the same games. Maybe they even use the same cartridge, but over time, they do start to have some exclusives over time. But it is still considered by that family, and by doing that, they will guarantee that they will pass 155 million. They will do that
Easy.
because what's going to happen is that they're going to keep their sales.
Again.
Yeah, or at least they'll maintain. They'll continue to sell about 20 million every year, give or take. And they would love to do that. And if they can,
the first 200 mil generation.
And maybe it's a situation where Switch is all of a sudden no longer considered like a 10-year plan. It's just an infinite plan. It becomes the iPhone.
Dude, I've been calling for them to do this since 2017.
Right.
I was okay, new president. Don't be stupid. Look at what phones are doing. This idea you have of this hybrid system is not going to be a dead idea at the end of this generation. No. This is a beautiful idea.
You stick to it until you die.
Going, and don't do the 3DS thing or the Game Boy Advance. No. You have the brand. Phone gen this.
It's
SOB.
so
Not
interesting.
Every year, of course, but the way they progress.
Yeah, but let's stick to this iPhone comparison, right? Like, correct me if I'm wrong. This is just my impression, but my impression is that Apple used to be considered a little bit more innovative and trying out new wacky ideas more frequently, right? Was that a common sentiment?
In the early days,
before iPhone,
with iPod into iPhone, yeah, that's
before iPhone. But once iPhone came around, they struck gold, and they've just stayed on that bandwagon for as long as they can, and it's gonna go forever. Like, there's no reason to think iPhone's ever gonna end.
Sure.
But that's what they did. They transitioned from being from a company that tried out all these wacky ideas, seeing what worked. They found something that truly was revolutionary for their market, and they just stuck with it. You could argue Switch it's kind of a similar situation to Nintendo. They've tried all these wacky ideas for years. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Switch is something that seems like they could keep going forever. Yeah. So why not?
The great thing about Switch is you can still have your wacky things like Labo and different crazy ideas that the Switch controllers and different accessories can offer. But Nintendo doesn't need to go and I think they figured out they don't need to engineer their entire console around one singular gimmick feature anymore. The gimmick is that you can take your console anywhere, and that's a gimmick that's not, as you said, Nate, it's not gonna go away. Did I get your name wrong?
Nate? No, you're fine.
No, it's Nate. Yeah, I had a brain thing. All right. Anyways, yeah, it's just not a gimmick that's gonna go away. Mr. Prime to you, sir. But yeah, there's no reason for them to reinvent the wheel. They can just add on some other accessory that does that for them if they want to do something new. And there's adoption for that. Like, people will buy that. Like, Labo sold millions. It didn't sell as nearly as well as like the Switch, but it's never gonna have that appeal. And I don't think there is an appeal that's going to be more than their hybrid console. So in the end, they should just focus on that and then just do other wacky Nintendo things on the side.
There's also an interesting point that both companies, for that comparison, went through a transition phase like around the same time. iPhone comes out, Steve Jobs passes away, transitions to new leadership. Iwata,
it's like their legacy.
Switch was like his last idea before he passed away, and now there's a numbers guy in charge. Like he was an accountant. Just call him what he was. He was an accountant. That's what he did. He was balance sheets and stuff. And he literally, one of the first things he said, and he said it on repeat like 7 times. He doesn't talk very often, by the way, guys. You really only hear him at the investors meetings. This is a polar opposite of Iwata. He does not want to be heard. I'm the leader, and you're not going to hear from me. That's just the way it is. But at these investors meetings, when he has to answer these Q&A questions, because I'm actually surprised they still take the QA questions under his leadership, but they still do. Maybe because Miyamoto's still around. Maybe it's just tradition, I guess. He has repeatedly said, Nintendo in the past gets high and falls off a cliff, and I'm going to do everything to make sure we do not fall off a cliff, because we are getting high again. Well,
Yeah.
So like the Switch is blowing up, we're not going to let it go. Okay, so how are you not going to let it go? Because Nintendo has let go of the success every time.
Yeah.
This is a different, and this is where my whole idea for this came from originally, was like, hey, there's already companies that showed how to not let it go.
I mean, they could even follow Sony. Like, Sony has a fairly solid model.
Sure.
Their marketing and messaging is very clear. What's the next system called? Oh, it's called PS5.
Yeah.
What's the next one going to be called?
PS7.
PS6. Like,
PS7.
like, yeah, like, just keep it simple. And you look at how they're handling, like, and they always have their systems, their previous systems, be relevant for a few years. And it's not to say Nintendo hasn't done that, but when it comes to their handhelds, they've done it. Game Boy Advance is relevant alongside DS. DS is relevant alongside 3DS, and 3DS is relevant alongside Switch. I don't know if you guys noticed that. They were still releasing new games for 3DS until 2019. By the way, most of those are remakes and remasters. And we go back to the Emily Rogers rumor, what are they talking about? A whole bunch of GameCube remasters. So there could be a connection there.
Which I know has some people that just want it to be on NSO and be done with it. Which I get wanting just the GameCube library to be there for cheap. I understand.
Yeah, but also Nintendo's trying to is a business, and they're gonna do everything they can to make our money. Like,
yeah. I love GameCube. I would love for that to be on NSO, but I also think that, I mean, look, they want to make
also
money.
The first. Sorry, finish your point.
No, you're okay. You're okay. What are you gonna say?
I was just gonna say GameCube's the first generation that's like really easy to just remaster and make the game look so much better with like the core still visual there. Whereas like the N64 before, you really got to remake like the entire thing.
$60 remasters from GameCube are gonna sell a game.
I mean, you look at Mario Galaxy and Mario Sunshine, like those games look great. And
you look at Wind Waker HD, it's
amazing.
HD textures and a new lighting system. That game looks insane.
Yeah,
it looks so good. Yeah, I feel like a lot of GameCube games.
Now I'm just getting wet dreams about all the GameCube games.
Dude, think about how amazing F-Zero is gonna look, because that game looks incredible. You just give it clean HD textures, like you don't even have to add any effects.
I've already seen it on emulators, man. It's gonna look incredible.
Yeah,
this is why I want the Metroid Prime remaster, because that game with some like new textures and like a new lighting engine or something, and that game would look so good.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even need to remake it. I'd hope they'd remake it and like in the Prime 4 engine or something ambitious, but whatever.
But
even if they didn't,
let's wrap our predictions though.
I'm on it. Sure. You know what? I'm gonna let the side of me that was telling me, nah, I'm just, you know what? We're going to let it go. It's happening. It's around Zelda. I'm just going to go all in and get burned, but that's all right.
It's interesting, right? I feel like I'm afraid to be prisoner of the moment, right? Like, because we have all these feelings. It's so exciting. There's clearly, like, we are susceptible.
I might change my mind on Wednesday. I reserve for my own.
Round 2 of this discussion is happening on Wednesday, guys. But, it's just kind of like, you know, we're clearly susceptible to confirmation bias. And if you don't know what that means, basically, when you want something, you're more likely to look for clues to prove your point and ignore points to disprove your point.
Cherry picking.
Right.
Yep.
So, and I say that, you know, I say that just so everything we're talking about, you know, maybe with some things you're thinking about, take it with a grain of salt, right? Because we want something. We're biased. Like, we clearly are. We know that. I try to be objective, but anyone who says they're 100% objective is lying. To themselves or to you or both. So just keep that
They're
in
a
mind.
robot if they're objective.
Yes.
Literally a robot.
And even then, sometimes I kind of doubt those robots. Have you seen those like
The AI thing?
Yeah.
The AI.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not objective.
Right, dude.
because
I had
it's-
one
it's
try to write
whatever
a
their
video
source
script for me the
material
other
is.
day. It actually
It's
did.
all-
It actually didn't do half bad. I'm like, this is
It-
actually pretty good. Now I gotta fact check everything you said.
AIs are just limited by their source material. They're more
Mm.
biased than we are because they don't come up with their own ideas. They just regurgitate things that they have heard
Yeah.
and reinterpret things that they have seen. So they're even more biased than we are.
Yeah, it just sounds like we're all
Big
humans.
Man, I appreciate you. Big Man says, if it don't happen, don't worry. I'm not gonna be mad at y'all's. Thank you. I got another super
Really?
chat
a
here.
lot of people will though. That's
Yeah.
the problem. No matter how much you clarify, like in the video or in
Doesn't
the-
matter.
Like, this is just a prediction. I don't know anything.
Nah.
It's whatever. If it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to happen, and you're going to have an army of people with pitchforks screaming at you for it. It's just how it goes.
So a lot of my videos, I pose a question, and then I talk about the question. I try to consider both sides. I might
it's a
say,
discussion video.
I might say I'm leaning more towards one or the other, but I'm not committed usually. But then people still see that and assume that that's what I believe. They just they answer the question like, oh, so you think this? I didn't say I did.
Look,
It's just-
I want this, but I don't
Yeah.
know. So.
Right.
But I don't care. My flag's in the ground. Go ahead
Yeah.
and roast me when it doesn't come
Yeah.
out with Zelda. It's whatever. I'm gonna be too busy playing Tears of the Kingdom to care either way. So
Yeah.
I don't think
it's a
it'll come
good
out
time to
Zelda,
roast
but
me when I'm not gonna be paying attention.
I
Oh.
do predict it will come out next year. I don't predict it will come out with Zelda. As I said, I think it'll come out late in the year. But
So I'm gonna put a quick pin on this. I just want to get to the super chat from Taker. Thank you very much for the super chat, Taker. Taker says or asks, true or false? Nintendo is a mobile gaming company.
false. I mean, define mobile.
Right. Like mobile games.
Need context.
Yeah. I would say partially. So it's not true or
Or you
false.
look at it.
Yeah. Now, is Nintendo just food trucks? Does Nintendo stop like developing games inside like headquarters studio buildings and just have a whole bunch of food trucks where they sell like tacos and
Yeah,
burgers
see,
while
the pandemic
developing?
happened, so they broke all the teams off into buses, and they just travel to
Man,
stay
I'm
away
hungry.
from others.
Yeah. I got another super chat here from Sammy. Thank you very much for the super chat, Sammy. Sammy asks, do you think NSO carries over to next generation of Nintendo on launch or something similar for legacy content? So I think one of the fascinating things about this still being the same family of Switches, it supports the idea that it will carry over and it will carry over immediately.
I think either way it will. I think that's kind of why they built this whole new system where
I agree.
you're actually tying your games to your account and actually keeping everything. I think they said that they want. I'm accidentally
I don't know what happened.
I don't
accidentally
know.
unplugged my.
Oh, okay.
My headphones just suck and the connection's not good. So
Okay.
when I moved my phone to unplug, what I was saying is I think they said something about wanting to keep continuity, and that's the reason, one of the reasons they made their system. But I'd imagine that the accounts will bring over, and your games will just stay linked to your account, and the cloud saves will stay linked too, and you can just move everything over. I think that they're wanting it to be a much smoother transition. And I think it's going to be part of their strategy to make everything just easier for everybody. I mean, it's already so much easier just when you get a new Switch, move everything over. I think
Yeah.
they want that for like the next generation. It's because they want the next generation to be smooth anyways. I think it's going to be a lot of cross-gen for a long time, like
Yeah.
we were saying. So they want everything to just work. Like you just get your new Switch and you just load up your account and you just download your games, and everything's just good to go.
Yeah.
I think it'll carry over, but it won't. It might not be there at launch. It might be like even Sony and Microsoft are missing a few things at launch. I kind of feel like at launch it might not have been a priority to get ready for launch, but it will be after, and it'll be there within a few months.
Yeah.
That
Because it's new hardware, and these things were being made for old hardware, and so they almost kind of sort of have to redo the work again.
So let me ask you this.
In a small way. In a small way.
Let me ask you this: do you did the new Nintendo 3DS still have access to the eShop and all the downloads you made on your initial 3DS?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
I believe it was just like you bought a 3DS.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's why for that reason, you know, because of the way I'm seeing this, as they're going to treat like a mid-gen refresh, but that line will be blurred a little bit because it's also being positioned to say last longer and be kind of like next gen. I think that it's going to. I'm assuming it's going to be day one. I understand where Nate's coming from though, and I could see them missing some things, but I don't think it'll be games
the
or
new
NSO.
3DS though was mostly the same type of hardware, just beefed up. This would be
Hey, you said yourself it was twice as strong.
Yeah, it was
Twice as strong, man. The Wii was twice as strong as the GameCube.
It was, but think about this. It'd be like going from like a Ryzen 5800 to a Ryzen 5900. It's the same family of hardware that they stayed within. Like this is going to be completely new generation stuff. This is not Maxwell hardware.
Okay.
So they would need to rework it a hell of a lot more than they would need.
He's not wrong. When the video leak came out, I remember specifically there were a lot of talk about Nintendo focusing on making sure everything works because it was not the same, and they did have to put a lot of work into it. Apparently, they were actually doing a ton of R&D just on making sure that like games and different services like actually work, like cross-gen can be done. Period.
Yeah, that's why I think like the focus on it would just be making sure all of the current Switch library works, and they'll focus on the NSO aspect of it a little after launch. Now, granted, they could have it all sorted out by launch anyways, because if this thing was supposed to launch 2 years ago, then who the hell knows if they were done.
I ended the Metroid poll. Okay. And the question
I'm one
was,
of the 80s, so
will Metroid Prime 4 come eventually? Yeah, 80% said yes of the 84 votes that went in. So I ended the poll because I wanted to ask a new poll.
It's a surprising amount of people who think that Metroid Prime is just
every poll is about crushing me. So here we go.
Well, you're gonna love this one. The question is Nate not wrong?
About what?
Is Nate not wrong?
About what?
I don't know. About being.
I don't know, man.
What am I not wrong about?
Is Nate as a concept?
Hey, so far so good. 100% yes.
There's only 2 votes. One of them's me.
I don't know, man.
Vote yes, I don't know what
oh man, down to 75, 88. Come on, throw Nate a bone here.
It's okay.
Come on, guys, be nice.
People don't have to like me. It's all right.
Be nice, please. I don't want to see him cry.
No one has to be nice. I'm not gonna cry. It's whatever.
Yeah.
That's whatever.
Anyway, just there's a couple questions I want to address here. Or rather, we're back to Sammy's question about NSO. Dang, we dropped down to 69. It's okay. Hey, anyway.
Yeah, it's getting bad.
Nice.
It's getting bad. It's about to become a slaughter.
Oh my goodness, be nice.
It's about to flip to 60-40 the other way.
Oh my goodness.
Just give it time.
Anyways.
I know my own audience won't vote for me, so.
Yeah, it's okay.
A friend's audience is definitely not voting for me.
It's okay. It's just the opportunity. But just
you
to kind of
another opportunity to slaughter me is what you did.
I honestly, like I when I did it with a good heart.
His intentions were pure.
Yeah.
You can have pure intentions to the result.
You know what they say, right? The path to hell is paved with good intentions.
I mean, next time run the poll behind me, I'll tell you it's a good idea.
Okay. Well, it's just I love Brandon's wording, right? Where he said, "Oh, Nate's not wrong." You know, they would have to change around some things because it's a hardware boost.
Yeah.
I mean, so
that was my whole point of it.
Yeah. So that's why I put the poll.
Yeah,
anyway,
but either way,
even for like backwards compatible games, they'll essentially have to like emulate the Switch in some aspects just to get to work.
I get what you guys are saying. So there could potentially be some delay, but also you look at like
it's coming over either way.
I mean, maybe also that's maybe they want to be like that immediately, so they take their time with the system. Because
I'll
if
give
we
it a
go back to
caveat.
what's the
They
caveat?
don't call it a Switch because it's called NSO. So if it's not a Switch in name, then maybe they don't do it because the excuse will be, well, that was Nintendo Switch Online.
Well,
Now this is Nintendo blah 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 online, and we have to re-release all these things all over again.
or you could also
I don't-
argue that it's the other way. It
$20.
goes the other way
Thank you.
around. That because it is NSO, that means it's always gonna have be Switch something moving forward.
Here's a better question. Comes out, do they increase the price, arguing, hey, when we launched NSO, we didn't have all these games. Now we have all these games, so we're gonna increase the price.
Well, I think it stays the same. I think it stays
Yeah, I
the
don't
same.
think they can raise it because they'd have to raise it on the base Switch too.
Yeah.
I
no.
think, because I think they'll keep account parity for a while.
Next gen tax.
So I would be surprised if they
4K
would just
tax.
next gen tax would be
4K tax.
bro.
Okay, well, if they want to up it to 4K, then yes. But
Well,
If
they would
they
have to.
actu-
They would have
well-
to. That I'm telling you, it's gonna be like
okay,
I
but,
hate this. It's kind of like PS5 putting 8K on the box, but it's gonna be a selling point. 4K is going to be a selling point for this damn thing.
and I totally get that, but Ocarina of Time in 4K is not going to look that much better than Ocarina of Time in 1080p. Am I
That's how
wrong?
big your TV is.
I don't know.
I
Would,
don't
if
know.
they use
Ocarina of
Is
Time
it-
on
is it-
NSO looks pretty
okay,
blurry on this
okay,
85-inch TV
actually-
right
Yeah,
here.
Okay.
with DLSS you're
Okay.
gonna get like anti-aliasing too,
All right,
which you're not
mm.
gonna get just with the emulator upscaling.
That's possible. The one point I want to make in reference to Sammy's question, though, is something I made a point the other day of. And it's just that because we are paying for an online subscription now, as opposed to previous generations, because I think the thing is people are afraid that the legacy content won't carry over, because previous generations they didn't. But the difference is we didn't pay a monthly subscription beforehand. We now do. So Nintendo has incentive to keep that subscription model going, because if they would lose money because we're paying them now. So you have to keep the same subscription system going, literally because they're making money from it. Nintendo has financial incentive to keep it going. But to Nate's point, will all the features be there at launch? I want to say yes, but I also understand the point that because they may need more time to optimize different things, it may take a little longer.
They will have the service there at launch because they're still going to want to charge you to play online. So like, I don't think there's a period where we get free online again. Like we
Yeah.
do with
I think
Switch.
they might have like the base version of Switch Online, but they might have like 4K updates for different things that's later points. Because they might just keep, because they
Sure.
will have to rework some things for that, but less if they're just trying to point like
I
the
mean,
same stuff as in
yeah.
post-enhanced versions.
I'm not asking the hard-hitting questions. Are we going to have more than 64 gigabytes of storage?
I don't actually think they're going to increase the storage that much because I think they might increase the storage speed and just keep capacity low still.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think
didn't-
honestly, there's just no point with expandable storage. Why spend the extra money investing in more storage when they can put that into other features that make more sense and just have you be able to expand the storage?
Sorry, I was talking to myself.
So I had something I was gonna say, but I forgot. I mean, we could
It's
just move
getting
on.
late. We're all
yeah.
losing our minds.
We got to move on to Zelda. So,
Yeah, I've got about 10 minutes.
okay, yeah, all right. So this is the point I was gonna make. Let's move on to Zelda. So, the point I wanted to make is simply that, or it's more of a question. I don't know the answer to it. Could it be that because of DLSS that is upscaling lower resolution images, that they don't necessarily need to have bigger cartridges or file sizes because they're simply like, because a 4K
You
file
still
size.
do. It's not. It makes no difference. The resolution you're running the game at makes no difference for what the file size, because the file size is the actual assets of the game. So you can scale up the resolution as much as you want. You're not gonna have a bigger game, but you're
Okay.
gonna want assets that fit that higher resolution. Obviously, the Switch isn't probably gonna be able to run assets anywhere near like the Xbox, the next generation. But as far as like having much higher resolution assets, it is going to make the file sizes bigger, no matter what the resolution you actually run the game at.
Okay, so bigger cartridges may be important down the road. All right, cool.
Yes, but at the same time, unless they increase cartridge speed, at some point it just gets to the point where you need like internal storage to get the speed you want, which is like the issue people have with like discs and things as well. That's why the next generation consoles you just download everything pretty much,
I understand.
even if you have the disc. I'm not sure if they'll run into that problem next generation, but it's just something to think
Okay.
about.
Yeah,
I think they'll probably just keep the same cartridges though, because they don't even use the 64 gigabyte ones yet. But they're available, but I don't think any game has ever launched with one.
Okay.
I think there's 2, but
Alright.
I can't remember what ones they are.
We need to move on, so I'm going to address a couple more questions quickly, and then we'll have the wrap up. Okay. First, there's another super chat here from Janiel Vargas. Thank you very much for the super chat. And Janiel asks, when will Nintendo begin its marketing for Breath of the Wild 2? So actually, that's actually a perfect segue to the final topic. So I'm gonna get back to this. I just want to address something from Joycey J, who added me earlier. Joycey J had added both you and I, Nate. How about a Zelda game from Zelda's point of view using her abilities? 2 Zelda games dropping like the Pokemon franchise. A Zelda game from Zelda's point of view using her abilities. It would have to be a spin-off that's very limited, but I'd be down for it.
I wonder if the idea is like it would be Tears of the Kingdom, but it's from 2 different perspectives.
I was getting that kind
so
of
like-
vibe, like they would have like a second.
Yeah, like you have a
studio
whole
developing
question
Zelda.
going with Link, but a different one you can go on with Zelda and
So-
different abilities.
If it's that, it would just be DLC. It would be maybe like the, hey, so you played the adventure with Link, now here in the DLC you get to play the adventure through Zelda's perspective. That'd be cool.
Because you mentioned like the Pokemon franchise, which I mean, yeah. I don't think they'll overdo it anyways, but I think it'd be it's a neat idea. Like I've always wanted one too, where you play the opposite, where you're Ganondorf, and from his perspective, things aren't so evil. He thinks he's the good guy. Like it'd be cool to play kind of, but those are always cool ideas. I just don't think they're ever gonna do them.
I don't know. I think Nintendo. I mean, we've seen like some of the concepts from Retro Studios and different Zelda games they wanted to make. Like they've always exploring different weird ideas.
Yep.
I mean, we did have a game based off Tingle. We also had a game based off Princess Peach. They may go back to some of
I
those.
don't think the Tingle ones ever
Tetris
came to the
Trackers,
West.
that was a thing.
The what? Brandon, I heard what you said, that Tingle never came to America, or the West in
Oh.
general. But what did you say, Nate?
Well, technically, it came to Europe. The one game did, but
Okay.
Tetris Trackers is also a spin-off game that stars Tetra, who we all know is Zelda.
I don't
But
even.
it only existed in Japan.
I might have heard of that and completely forgot about it because was it for DS?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've ever seen that game, but maybe if I
Uh,
saw something of it, I'd remember.
Tetris Trackers was for GameCube.
Really?
Interesting.
Yep.
Wow. I don't. This is crazy.
I don't know if I've ever seen anything of that. I'll have to look it up.
That is so interesting.
Originally known as Navi Trackers, just to be clear if you're looking.
That
it
is
up.
so interesting.
Strange. I wonder why it was originally known as that.
What is it?
Anyways,
I mean, it looks like it's
I guess there was a
gameplay.
version of it on Game Boy Advance and then a version on GameCube, and the GameCube version was
Mm.
called Tetris Trackers.
It
That's
looks
why I
like a
remember Tetris
variation
Trackers.
of Four Swords.
Yeah. That's what it originally. It was a game mode originally. So the reason I said Tetris Trackers was it started as Navi Trackers, and it was a game mode in Four Swords Adventures, and then was released as its own thing called Tetris Trackers on a disc for GameCube, like a collector's disc thing that never actually released outside Japan.
That's interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
But yeah. Anyways,
Cool.
there's just to point out that technically Zelda had sort of her own game. We don't count the Zelda's Adventure
Cool.
CDI game.
Cool.
Anyways,
All right. So we're now officially moving into the Zelda topic, right? I think we kind of
3
we
minutes ago for me.
It's all right. So is there any predictions you want to get out there, or have we kind of covered everything beyond Zelda?
I mean, I have a few others, but I'll wait for my podcast.
Okay.
For that.
All right, Brandon.
I'm good.
Okay, cool. All right, so going back to Daniel's question, because I think it's a good way to start this topic, which I know, Nate, you got to go. So, but when will Nintendo begin its marketing for Breath of the Wild 2? I'm gonna guess late January, right after Fire Emblem Engage, or early February.
Middle of February, Nintendo Direct.
Yeah,
that on
I feel
forward.
the same.
They will
Like
smash
January,
it
February.
after that. Like they won't stop. It's just not going to stop after that direct. Every week there'll be something.
Yeah, man, that could be that could be when the blowout. I mean, I definitely agree. There's gonna be a direct by mid-February. I totally agree
I
with
think,
that.
yeah, January, February, Nintendo Direct. They do a big blowout trailer, but to add a wrinkle,
Might
they
even
also
follow.
announced a Zelda specific Direct for Tears of the Kingdom. I think it'd probably be in March, maybe April, but probably March, because there's not a lot going on in March. And then April you got the Mario movie, and then
I think there's gonna be
May,
another Mario
obviously, you got
Bros.
the game.
movie direct. So I wonder when how they position that before the release of the movie.
Maybe could be
I
the same
also-
month.
Throw this out there. I think after immediately following the Nintendo Direct in February, they will have a Tears of the Kingdom Treehouse event.
Oh yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Oh,
I think
that'd be
they'll either
amazing.
do that after. I think they'll either do that after the Direct, or if they do a Zelda specific Direct, then they'll do it after that.
I would love if the Treehouse is just basically shows the game's equivalent to the Great Plateau, like that beginning segment. That'd be cool. Unless
Or
it's
is
more
there not
linear
going to
at
be one?
first. So then no.
Yeah, they don't no idea how this game starts.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
these are
true.
questions we need
So to
answered.
start presuming you've already played Breath of the Wild, so then we're not going to do the traditional area. Are we going to stick with the way Zelda's always been and do it? Because remember, it's supposed to be DLC, so it originally worked with the concept. You already know how to play Breath of the Wild. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
So
no idea.
I like the idea of Treehouse. I think that should happen, but I also still think there's gonna be a Zelda Direct. I think there's
They've
gonna.
done that with other ones. They've done that with a few other games. They've done Treehouse after Directs. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it may not be the same day, might be later in the week or the week after. But yeah, I literally like that idea. I didn't think about that, but that makes sense to me.
As for a Zelda Direct, I mean, if I think they have one, it'll be in April. I don't think they're gonna do one before then. But
No?
could be wrong.
I think it could happen like the week after the release of the Mario movie.
I just think on April that they're gonna want to focus.
Yeah.
Like on the
I think-
Mario movie.
I think they will in April, but it's early April. The movie comes out, so I
Right,
think
so they
once
could
it's
do it
out, they
the
don't
week
need to
after.
the
And
marketing.
They're about
takes
a
care
month
of
away.
itself.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Word
That's
of
fair.
mouth marketing takes care of it after the
And,
game.
and also, there's gonna be a
movie's
window of time where both are being marketed simultaneously.
Yeah, probably.
They're not gonna stop talking about the movie once they start talking about Zelda in February.
Right.
So
Well, yeah.
yeah.
Well, the thing is, I'll say this: like, once the movie comes out in April, like, I don't know that there's much more they need to talk about. Word of mouth's going to take it from there.
There'll be
There's another
commercials and stuff,
Mario
but
movie.
yeah.
Yeah,
mean-
commercials, but
I mean, I
there'll be
think
commercials
yeah,
for
and
Zelda by then.
I don't
too.
think they're gonna
And
stop
if they
tweeting
have
about the
any
movie
Mario
though.
games or Donkey
I mean,
Kong games, social
Breath of the
marketed as
Wild
well.
had a commercial during the Super Bowl. You
True.
could see something
That
like
was
that.
big.
Ooh, that'd be
Tears of the
interesting.
Kingdom.
That was super
I don't know
hype.
if they'll do it. I think
Got that
they
Imagine
more likely do a
Dragons
Mario movie commercial during the Super Bowl. I think
That,
it's probably more
I
likely.
100% believe there will be a Mario movie commercial
But do both.
in the Super
I don't know
Bowl.
if Nintendo's gonna
They no hard
do.
hard.
It's so expensive
no.
to get a commercial.
No,
during the
I don't
Super
think
Bowl,
we've
so I
ever
don't know
seen
if
them
they'll
do that
two.
before, and I do not expect them to start now. I mean, no. Super Bowl's
I
in
think the
January,
Tears of the
right?
Kingdom one was like
No,
$5 million.
No,
or
Super
something,
Bowl's not in
somewhere.
it's in
January.
February.
We're still in the regular season, buddy. Heading into January.
I don't watch football, buddy. I'm sorry.
It's what, February or March?
Super Bowl 2023 is slated for February 12th. Right around the time we
Well,
conveniently could
There's
have a
no
Nintendo
way
Direct.
we're just still in the regular season in January. The playoffs take a while.
We still have 2 more regular season games to go
All
after
right,
this
fine.
Switch
weekend.
don't
Okay,
take that
January
long.
is a week away. You're right. So,
Yeah,
by the way,
that's-
this is the last podcast of the year because
Yeah, Super Bowl's in the middle of February, so that's right around Nintendo
Yeah.
Direct time. Might be the
Only
perfect
so
time.
many teams get into the playoffs, and then it's elimination style, so it's pretty quick.
Yep,
Yeah,
there's
you're right.
4 rounds plus the Pro Bowl, but they take a break, so it ends up taking like 5 weeks to get to the Super Bowl once the playoffs begin. The playoffs don't begin for 3 weeks.
By the way, Nate, the poll's actually going well in your favor. Is Nate not wrong? You're at 66%, buddy.
Okay, but when we say well in the favor, let's consider the prior polls that were both around 80% against.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
thought you were
just-
gonna say like 70 or something.
I was
at
like
least.
66. Last I looked, it was 69. So it actually has gotten worse since I looked. And the more we mention it, it's only got 32 votes out of like the 86 people watching. If we encourage the votes, we all know which way it's going.
We should just use polls to shit on our guests on every
'Cause
podcast.
the
This is
question-
great.
He'll shit on me. People shit on me all the time. I
just think it's
have
fun.
Jake Randall come on my podcast. He spends half the podcast shitting on me. It's just how it goes.
Hey, by the
Those are
way,
people's favorite podcasts.
you're now at 68%. There is an effort to put you in the good graces of like.
There's a few people.
reality.
I feel bad for Nate. You don't have to feel bad.
Poor
It's all good.
old Nate.
Poor old Nate. Whatever am I gonna do?
Yeah. All
Straight
right.
crying
So,
himself to sleep tonight.
you guys have any crazy things to say about Zelda? Well, actually, Nate, I wanted to ask you because you decided to become a prisoner of the moment, and you're buying into Switch hardware coming out next year. When does it launch?
Zelda.
Does it launch? It
Zelda.
does launch
That
with
was what I
Zelda.
bought into was Zelda.
Okay, so then let me ask you this.
I don't know if it'll be like same day. It could be same day. I think it'd be best if it was same day, but it'll be
I
like the
agree.
same month at least.
Okay, so let me ask you this, okay? Brandon, I know you already predicted that it comes out with Mario on the end of the year, unless you want to change. But
I'm not very
the
firm
reason
on
I said late January to early February was because I was opening the door for maybe a Switch hardware announcement then. And that announcement has a little bit of extra footage of Tears of the Kingdom. Like, it wouldn't be like talking about Tears of the Kingdom, we'll just see a little bit of extra footage as they showcase the system.
Yeah, like they did with Switch with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And they actually showed Mario Odyssey before it was announced.
Right, like they'll just show a little bit of footage, which I would consider Tears of the Kingdom marketing. Light, but yes.
It'd be big if they just showed actual, just like straight gameplay.
Yeah, they're just
for
straight
even
up
just
gameplay.
like 20 or 30 seconds.
Because I mean, the idea is
It'd
the
be more than
system's
what
gonna be
we
more
have.
powerful, so they have to showcase it, running games better, right? So, that's what I kind of see happening.
Dude, I think if they do something like that, they'll start it with Tears of the Kingdom like they did Breath of the Wild for the Switch. But what they'll have is they'll start with them playing in handheld on this Switch that just looks a little different. What's different about this thing? What's going on? Is that Tears of the Kingdom he's playing? He's about to walk his dog like we saw before. And then he goes to dock it. And what happens is, you know how your TV will do like adjustments sometimes when you dock and it'll like pop up information on your screen?
Yeah.
It'll pop up 4K 60. They'll show it popping up on the screen right
Pop
before
up
it flashes.
HDR, I would be hyped.
Yeah, even HDR. Well, that'd be crazy if they did HDR. I don't think HDR. The
might be
HDR
going
might be
overboard
pushing
here.
it, but it'll pop up like 4K 60 right before Tears of the Kingdom loads on the screen, and just looks absolutely like crisp as hell. And you're like, did they just confirm Tears of the Kingdom's in 4K 60? And that's the only thing going through people's minds. And then they'll realize, wait a second, that's a new Switch then. And people are just going to go nuts. And then from there, they start flashing all these other scenarios in different games and some big third-party game we didn't know about. Maybe it's Call of
Resident
Duty
Evil.
or something.
Resident Evil, Call of Duty.
Something that,
They show off Hogwarts Legacy. Like,
yeah, Hogwarts Legacy could be one that, hey, they were waiting so
Yeah.
long because they knew this hardware was coming.
It did get delayed till July.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do want
Then
to
all the other systems it got delayed.
briefly touch on that because you can make the argument. Well, I mean, it still doesn't run on base Switch. It does, but marketing a better looking version
Oh, yeah.
is good. It's just good
You
for
always
marketing.
market the better looking version.
That's
Always.
just good for messaging.
Always, yeah. Guys, Tears of the Kingdom is going to be on Switch. The Switch you own now will play Tears of the Kingdom. I don't think no one should have any doubt about that.
No. Yeah.
But it's just like if you owned a Wii U. Breath of the Wild was going to be on Wii U. You didn't need to worry about it. If you didn't want to upgrade, you didn't have to upgrade.
Yep.
But it'll be there.
So
I hope.
and that's why I think maybe we see some Tears of the Kingdom marketing slightly beforehand. But you could also argue that maybe announcing this hardware late January, early February might be too soon after the holidays.
I don't think so.
I think February is okay. January, I don't think they do because I think Fire Emblem Engage comes out late February. Let me look.
I thought it was early.
Oh,
January
I'm gonna
20th.
look at the release date.
January
The release date of
20th.
that couldn't
Never
matter
ever
for
rely on
January
games
20th.
January 20th.
It's just like in the middle.
It's gonna be a good game, guys. We should play
I
it.
mean, yeah, they'll be about 10 days. I just don't think they're gonna announce new hardware while they're still trying to sell Fire Emblem Engage during its launch window. I think they'll wait. And by the way, I don't even think new hardware is going to be announced at the Direct because they just don't announce hardware at Directs. It'll be its own separate announcement.
I could see it happening right before.
Yeah, it could be right
Yeah.
before, which then people are going to go nuts for the Direct if it's right before. But
Well, that's a good thing.
what are they going to talk about now?
More
What's
things
coming
to
in
see.
4K? What major third-party
Bro,
games are we
but
gonna-
think
what
about it,
this,
though.
what that?
You reveal new hardware early February, hype up people for Tears of the Kingdom, announce the Direct, Then the direct shows footage more for Tears of the Kingdom, but then also shows off actual gameplay for Pikmin 4, and announces F-Zero GX HD in the summer. That would be insane.
If they wanna one up Sony, who's been really fumbling this a little bit, just announced that all prior Switch games will be freely upscaled to 4K. Because PlayStation had some controversy where like they were charging for some and not charging for others.
Because of how DLSS works, you have to actually implement it into the game engine for each game. So they'd have to work with all third parties. They'd have to go back to every single different type of game engine they have and put it in.
There's a different method.
Okay.
FSR 2.0 plus.
True, they could use FSR2
for those special situations. DLSS would be better, yes.
I mean, they could
to handle general upscaling for and they already use FSR, so it's not like they're allergic to
yeah, they were working with FSR1, which is like basically useless on all the games they have. So it's probably the only reason they're using it is because they're experimenting with 2. So they're trying to figure out how 1 works.
Yeah. So I think 2 could be one because Steam Deck does this, right? Like they force.
We're at the end of the discussion, by the way, guys. So any final points you want to chat, put it now.
Like
but we're ending
really
like 2 minutes.
Yeah, but FSR2 is a good point though, because DLSS you have to go in with every engine. Now, FSR2 is not going to look as good, and it's not going to run as well. Yeah. Like because it's not as performant. But like for just general play, like it could work.
Pretty good.
I think they would still have to go in and set the resolution targets. Otherwise, you're going to have some games that just don't run very well. Because it still does have FSR has a cost, so potentially there could be games that you might need to lower the internal resolution of FSR even.
But would you have to if all they're doing is upping the res, but there's already more power in the system? They might not have to do that.
It depends. It also depends on how much power they're allowed in backwards compatibility mode. Because it might not be a 1-to-1. Because like the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and their backwards compatible modes don't offer all of the power or all of the architectural improvements of those systems.
Well, they don't
because
call
they
it a
just
BC mode. It's not a new Switch. It's a Switch Pro, so it's just the Switch.
It's gonna have to just because the hardware difference. I think it's gonna need to be it's gonna have to work.
Yeah, they need to let people know your games that are.
I will say this:
multi-resolution will always run at the highest one.
I feel like a lot of Switch games without any major updates will just naturally run better because there's a lot of Switch games that have a dynamic resolution and kind of a choppy frame rate. Just a better system, it's just gonna look and play better naturally. Like it's gonna be better to play Doom and Elder Scrolls on there. They're just without any updates, and just that alone is gonna be a worthy upgrade. But I mean, I think we're pretty much at the end of the discussion, guys. Any final thoughts?
Okay, good. I was just about to hang up, so good.
Yeah, I think we're done.
Long cast.
We covered everything. Yeah, I don't know how we got to 4 hours. I don't know. I guess I had a good time.
I'm on the show. You and I can talk for hours.
Yeah.
And then throw Brandon in the mix. It's just getting wild.
Yeah.
It's getting wild over there.
We're starting to talk about tech. I could talk about tech for all day, bro.
Yeah, and then we had our call-in segment too, and that was pretty. That was pretty fun with Nishquick. But yeah, guys, if you could like the stream, it'd be super appreciated. And please make sure to check out Nate's channel. Actually, on that note, I did not. I gotta put in the description, but let me add it right now.
How dare you? How could you?
Well, the thing is, it happened.
Okay, his first link is to get perks at his channel. Let me go click and undo my membership.
It's purely
undo my
purely a
Definitely
mistake.
Not get linked on his podcast on Wednesday, bro.
Please subscribe to Nintendo Prime's channel, okay? And once I edit, it's his link, his channel will be linked in the description from the very beginning, as it usually is. So, but yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I had a good time, but that's all for now, guys. See you later.
Peace.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Yeah, at 64.